Make it make sense, make it make sense. Holding on to a fence while you straddling the fence. It make it make sense, make it make sense. Some of you were sent, some of y'all just went. Make it make sense, make it make sense. How you buy some shoes but you can't even pay the rent? Make it make sense, make it make sense. God can never bless a mess, He can only clean what's left. Better make it make. Man rejected me, but God selected me, and God accepted me, and God protected me. See, man's opinion belong inside the garbage bin, and sin should never have dominion in my heart again. They put in work, boy, cause if you don't, you not a man. Every church boy should grow into a godly man. Man of integrity, undeniably trustworthy. Kingdom identity, reliable and love mercy. Not greedy for gain of church contribution. You trying to pimp the church, that's spiritual prostitution. God don't play about His children, you can't treat His children evil. Hey, you can build the building, but we gon' build the people. Turn this up in your speaker and make the devil mad. I keep reaching for my Bible, you can keep the bag. I got the signal from heaven that never lags. Hey, He's all I really need and all that I really have. Make it make sense, make it make sense. Jesus turned water to wine, that's your reason to get bent. Make it make sense, make it make sense. How you twist the word of God and try to say that's what He meant? Nah, make it make sense, make it make sense. How long you been a Christian? Why your armor got no dent? Make it make sense, make it make sense. God can never bless a mess, He can only clean what's left. Better make it make sense. Hey, hop out in an 87 Cutlass. How you cast out devils, yet you gutless in the public. Hey, you stay where it's safe though. Take me to the ruckus. A faith that can't be tested is a faith that can't be trusted. Hey, yeah, you went to Bible school, but bet they didn't teach you this. Only Holy Spirit can show you what heaven's secret is. Hey, it's a special consecration, a private preparation, meditation, concentration. And it's a kingdom presentation, a kingdom demonstration with heavenly elevation. Hey, put yourself last and put your neighbor first. Hey, that's the way it works. Don't forget the prayer works. Another day at work, time to put your faith to work. And look around the church, some of y'all came late to work. Most of us was thinking it, but I'm the one to say it first. Hey, it's okay to cry, sis, it's okay to hurt. Hey, I remember swimming rivers in my teardrops. Like fear not, gotta make your tears stop. Hey, I remember every day I used to pill pop. I got so drunk I used to pass out on the hilltop. Hey, but it's different now, I no longer chase the blunt. And I'd be dumb if I let Satan play me like a chump. Hey, blessed be the name of the Lord. I said from this time forth to forevermore. Hey, make it make sense, tell them make it make sense. Holding on to a fence while you straddling the fence. Hey, make it make sense, tell them make it make sense. Some of y'all was sent, some of y'all just went. Hey, make it make sense, make it make sense. How you buy some shoes but you can't even pay the rent? Man, make it make sense, tell them make it make sense. God can never bless a mess, He can only clean what's left. Better make it make sense, and make it make sense. Jesus turned water to wine, that's your reason to get bent. Nah, make it make sense, hey, make it make sense. How you twist the word of God and try to say that's what He meant? Man, make it make sense, hey, make it make sense. How long you been a Christian, yet your armor got no dent? Make it make sense, and make it make sense. God can never bless a mess, He can only clean what's left. Better make it make sense, yo. Better make it make sense. Better make it make sense. Better make it make sense. God can never bless a mess, He can only clean what's left. Better make it make sense.
God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with man on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn and turn to rebels. You try to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the burbs to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Rebellious in all ways, been sinner since birth. He knew that it would happen when He put us on this earth. We demonize weaponized religion brought corruption to the church. We know the price of everything, but we don't know the worth. We spend all of our time idolizing false prophets. Comparison's the enemy, stop watching others' pockets. The social system's broken, we divide on every topic. They fabricate the truth and we all monetize the gossip. We know the problems and we see them but don't want to change. We're desensitized to every issue cause they let us profit off of people's pain. In this dystopian age, we ought to game that he plays. And all the evil, deceitful people should shake our faith. I never seen God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with man on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn and turn to rebels. He tried to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the burbs to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Our God is an awesome artist. In perilous times we seek his grace as the world and the times we face turn fake in the face of the devil's mirages. In the midst of the pain just stained in the media's push of all this garbage, I pray that you keep your faith as the whole world breaks and the real get disregarded. It's about time that we take it back. The weight's too great for the camel's back. Strong men made life an easy task, and now the weak men feminize every act. In the church, in the workplace, every class, on the television screen, in the state of rap. All virtues gone and it's fade to black. We in hell on earth and it's gon' collapse. Integrity's lost, hedonism, we incentivize gods on the way the revolution will be televised. Gone too far, don't know if we can rectify. At those gates we will testify. So I'm saying it now for they counter-clockwise. We are living in times where the wickedest all rise, the intelligent fall while the stupidest all thrive, and the real get pushed aside. I never seen God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with man on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn and turn to rebels. He tried to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the birth to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back for part 2 of the Book of Adam and Eve. And I have CFM here with me. We were starting this last week, and I knew it was going to be a long show, so that's why we have a part 2. And who knows if we'll even get to the whole thing today. We may do a part 3. CFM, you there? He might still be.
Clickety click. I had to
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, we'll get through it today. Sure, Jen, whatever.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, there's no way.
We did, what, 4 hours, I think. And I think you were incorrect. I think we only got 40 minutes in. And the first hour, we didn't even go over the book. And that's just us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's no real outline for what we try to accomplish on the live stream. We say what we're going to cover, but, there's not any structure. So we can do and talk and go whichever way we want. It just so happens that we talked more than actually getting to the book.
That's very true.
But that's okay.
And I hope the audience doesn't mind. I just felt like going Avatar today. It's just one of those days. Call it a bad hair day. I don't know. But we're here.
It's all good. Either way, we're here.
I'll show everyone. You say I'm supposed to show everyone. There. Proof.
Hi, guys. But, since he said he was going to use his avatar, I figured, what the heck, I'll use mine as well.
And I got my most studious avatar, so because it's serious business instead of my.
You look highly intelligent there.
Thank you. And hi to everyone that said hi in the chat. There's so many lovely names. I can't say hi to all of you. It's too much typing, but I'm here.
Yes. I was highlighting some comments along the way in the beginning. I see DJ here. Welcome, DJ. I'm so nice to see you in the chat. Of course, Juan Torres is here. Freya is in the house. We got Jamie Crane here. I know Johnny Cool's here.
I saw Jenny.
Johnny Cool, Jenny Murphy is here. And I know other people are starting to come in. They're maybe just getting done work or dinner or whatever. It's all good. We got about 27 people here right now. And praise God, I'm here. That's right, DJ. Right. That's right. Half the battle is showing up.
Sterling Stutz and Carla Ferrizzi. So
Carla Ferrizzi is my aunt, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm horrible with pronunciation, so
it's an Italian name, Ferrizzi.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. And Brenda says,
I'm all Italian. I really mean I'm all Italian on both sides, all the way back.
Oh, that's why I always be nice to you, because I know you know somebody that can break noses and legs. So yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's just sort
Yeah, I don't even want to get started on that whole scenario. But hey, Brenda's here. Welcome, Brenda. Olive is here. Olive Juice, welcome as well. You're here. Good to see you guys. If I missed anybody, don't take it personally. I see everybody here, and I just want everybody to feel welcomed. And if at any point you don't like what we're talking about and you leave, it's okay. I'm good with it. If you need to change the channel at any point because you get bored or whatever, you're not interested, it's all good. No problem. See you on the next round.
Yeah, we just put the information out there. You have to decide if you want to let it in, because it's we have to. You have to understand. And I'm speaking, Jen and I, we feel compelled to do specific things to get this message out for a specific reason, and for us, it leads to God and God's judgment. So that's continually where my show's going to go, and I love these Bible studies that we get together.
Well, people have questions. I get their anger and their questions, because I used to feel the same way. I would look at this world, and the people that I know who've been through a lot in their lives, who never asked for none of this shit to happen to them, don't know why God would even allow this to happen. There's so many people suffering. I do read the comments under these live streams, and I get what your gripes are, because I had them too. But you have to understand.
And guess what? We still have them. We don't want to see the pain and suffering in the world. 100%. We're not enjoying this at all, any more than anyone that doesn't believe in the things we do. We live in a fallen world, and those are the cards we were dealt. We can piss and moan about it, like Adam seems to throughout this book.
Right.
But these are the cards, and we've got to work with them. Hey, real quick, can I ask you, who is that singing when we came in, that the second song?
That's called. His name is Dax.
Wow, that's a good song. I'm gonna you have to send me that, because I you hear the same 10 songs on some of these channels, and what a breath of fresh air that one is.
Yeah, he actually has another one that is a remix. It's longer. It's about almost 19 minutes long, and it's basically his verses as the chorus, but then other people, just like you and me, average people who decided to write their own lyrics and add them into this. And there's this one little girl in this one part. She's doing her lyrics, and she's like, "Follow Jesus when he comes. He's gonna crack the sky." And I was like, I love that part, because when he comes, he is gonna crack the sky. And everybody who's ever done anything wrong or hurt other people or did all this horrible stuff, they're gonna feel his wrath. And
I thought it was interesting, because he says in the song somewhere, a few times maybe, where he talks about how Satan's mad at us, and that's why he wants to destroy us. And that's exactly what we've covered in this Adam and Eve book.
Yeah.
He did not like the fact that he was told to bow down to what he thought was an inferior and younger creation.
Yeah.
And so he hates us, and he'll always hate us.
I've always had these questions like, well, why, if God, is almighty and all powerful, why can't he just make all this go away? Why do people have to suffer like this? Why is all this craziness happening? People are born into families and have things happen to them that they never asked for. They didn't ask to be born into those families and have the things happen to them that they had happen to them. But we live in a world where it's Lucifer's world here. Okay. And it's just the way it is. However, if you cry out for God, he's going to answer you. But at the same time, we're here and we have our free will. So, I mean, I know plenty of people, even I've heard of Satanists who were in deep into the whole thing, who got saved by God and came out. And they even admitted when they were in there were certain things that they couldn't do to Christians who really believed, especially the people who were meant to have a demon attached to them and were able to move into that astral world and move around, and they could see Christians praying. And they said there was like a blue dome over them where they were protected, that nothing they did could ever even penetrate that. And that scared the hell out of them, because they're like, okay, we think this guy over here, Lucifer, is the almighty, all powerful, and it's going to give us everything we want. But yet these people over here who have it in their hearts, God is truly in their hearts, and they're praying and they have that connection, they're protected. And they don't have to do anything. They have faith in God. They love God. They love each other, and they're honest and they're pure in their prayers. And that is all they need to protect them, the protection of God over them. Where these Satanists over here are doing blood sacrifices, raping, killing, stealing, pillaging, and everything else you could, the most unclean, foul things for Lucifer. Okay. And all they got to do over here is just, believe in God, know that Jesus is their savior. And all of this is going to come to an end at some point. As a matter of fact,
And
yeah, amen. I just want everybody to know that I was where you guys are. I had these same questions, and I know why you don't want to hear it, because maybe shitty things happen to you in your life and you're wondering where was God at when I needed him? I get all that, guys. I was there. But now that I better understand the world we're living in and what took place here and who's actually running this place, it's all around us, and we're the target because we're God's children, and they hate that. They hate it. They hate us. They hate God's children. But we're protected. And, God's going to sort all this out.
Even within that, though, because that's what I was talking. I did this show with Jamie Lee right before he passed away about the fires and stuff. And he used to tell people he's a targeted individual. And I truly understand what that means, regardless of where it's coming from. But when you put yourself out there, specifically the way Jen and I see it, it's a spiritual war. Mm-hmm. And so when we put ourselves out there fighting for God and fighting for Christ, then we get attacked by the other side. And like Jen says, we have this bubble of protection as long as we keep praying ourselves and keeping the whole armor of God. Because look at Job. I mean, he was the most righteous man ever, and he still had things that came to him. And so even within this, we know that we're going to have struggles. Jen and I, everyone, we have struggles. Mm-hmm. But the thing that gets us through it is our faith. The fact that we know no matter how we can't see our way out of it, around it right now, we just keep praying because he's made a promise to us. Just like in this book we're reading, he made a promise to Adam. He was going to come bring him home. And he's made a promise to us is that he will be here for us. All we have to do is call on him.
Yep. I saw somebody in the comments below our last video saying, oh, look, God lied to Adam. He said it was going to be 5.5 days. And I'm like, well, didn't you hear the rest of the story? He had to explain to him, no, it's not 5.5 days in what you're thinking. It's 5.5 days is 1 day is as 1,000 years. And then you think, oh, well, no, you're going to punish your kids for the rest of their lives. And every generation after them has to suffer for this. Like, what kind of parent is that or something? You know what I mean? And
God said for us that when Jesus is there and he's talking to the people, he's like, you want to do what I do? And they're like, yes. He's like, okay, they hate me. They're going to hate you. And they're like, wait, what? And then he's like, yeah. And if you want to follow me, pick up this cross, which is a torture device to him, and follow me. And they're like, hang on a second, that's more than we had bargained for. And so a lot of them left after that, that feeding of the fish and Sermon on the Mount or whatever that's called. It's not an easy path. Jesus suffered for us more than we'll ever understand. And so we suffer too. It's part of being human. Now, is God up there laughing because we're suffering? No, we hurt, he hurts too. So every time someone's suffering, if I'm worried about, say, Jen, now I'm suffering on that, and Jen, he's worried about both of us. So he feels all of it. But like someone said in the chat, it's more of almost a discipline. And when you go with, well, why can't God just fix everything? Well, he can. But then the people that say that we're enslaved because we have to live in this domed world and have this one God, but yet if he took away your free will and just did everything for you, then you are a slave, because then you don't get to do anything on your own. You're just a mindless zombie. So God gave us all the tools that we need to make the correct decisions and gave us free will. And it's fascinating because when you add in like some of these other books, like we're reading in the book of Jasher, do you know it talked about that time when he asked Abraham to go up and slay his own son, which when I first started reading the Bible, I'm like, how can I pray to a God that wants this? I could never. But when you understand the stories of what Abraham saw and how he survived himself in a fire and things like that, he walked with God so closely, and his whole family knew what was going on in a way. But when they finally get up there, of course, he doesn't have to sacrifice his son because there's a goat there, I believe, or a sheep. And when you read the book of Jasher, it mentions that sheep or goat, whatever it is, and says when he created the animals in Genesis, he created that animal knowing he was going to need it possibly for that day, knowing full well that Abraham could have made his free will choice and decided not to do it, but in case he had it ready to go. And
Well,
so I'm
he had
sorry.
faith in God, and he understood what God was asking him. Now we look at it as like, oh, well, that's barbaric. He's asking him to sacrifice his son. But I had said this before. If I had that kind of one-on-one relationship like he had with God, as far as, like that communication and stuff, and God was asking him to do different things, I know God. See, what we're confused about here is that we think that this world is all there is. And we don't understand that we have a short time here, and our eternal life is eternal.
When you say that's another devil's trick again, make us focus on the living, the now, the
Yes.
material, rather
Yeah.
than thinking in advance. Sorry, go ahead.
And the hardest thing for people to understand is forgiveness, especially when heinous things have happened to you and your loved ones or your friends in this life, and you don't understand why they got to suffer so bad, and it feels like God's not around and stuff. This world wouldn't be so corrupted and bad the way it is if Lucifer wasn't involved. However, that seems to be the case. He was cast down to this lower level here of physicality or whatever, and he has dominion here. He's the prince of the air. And we use all this stuff that has to do with the airwaves, like the computers, wireless stuff, and everything. The way me and you are talking right now is going through the airwaves. And he has an influence here unlike anything else. And his influence here is strong, and he could be so deceptive. And people, it's hard to explain what I'm trying to explain. All I know is that I've had shitty things happen to me in my life. I didn't understand why they were happening and stuff. And even like that thing with the footsteps, Jesus says, when you thought I wasn't around, I was actually carrying you. And that's why you only seen one set of footprints. You know what I mean? The footprint thing?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Right.
And it's helpful, except those moments when you're feeling like no one's there, and it gets very defeating. It does.
I mean, there's times even recently where I feel like, everybody's just happy to be against me. It's like, I feel it so strongly, and I can't understand why people are coming against me the way they do. But then I realize, my faith is strong in God and Jesus, and that gets me through it. And I don't get overwhelmed by it anymore, because now I know I see people I see their true fruits. And then I turn and I look at my fruits, and I stay true, and I stay the course, and I don't dabble in this type of, like underhandedness, sneakiness, trying to stab people in the back to prop myself up in any kind of way. I'm very forgiving on the other side of things. Even my ex-husband, I'm not going to get into him, but he did a lot of horrible things during our marriage. And he's one person that, I just really could not stand in my life. However, I forgive him for everything that he did, because, and I forgive myself also for allowing a lot of that stuff to even happen to me. Because, I think, well, why didn't I leave sooner? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Why did I stick around for this type of abuse? But, sometimes you got to go to hell. You got to go through hell to get to heaven. And I think that's what we're doing here. We're going through hell to try to get to heaven. If you decide to trap yourself in the animosity of whatever took place, whatever happened, say, God forbid, your loved one was murdered, or your son or daughter was, raped and killed, God forbid, all this horrible stuff that you can't even understand why this would happen. It's because whoever did it to your loved ones or whatever, were taken over by Lucifer and did what they did, and they're going to have to pay for that afterwards. Mm-hmm. If you hold on to that animosity and you let that grow within you, that hatred towards that person or that situation, or even that, say, a priest even, or something about the church, because, they're in the church, they've corrupted everything. And then you find out, the priest is doing crazy stuff with the altar boys or something like that. It's because we've been infiltrated on every level. Even the place where we go, where we think we could be safe, go to a priest to talk to him, or go to the church, and only to find out that they're doing all this horrible stuff behind the scenes, is because he's infiltrated every aspect of everything that is good and pure. And we have to find our way through all that. And it's not easy. It's this place.
And that's another part of this deception is every one of the large organized religions, they're all compromised at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The only people that aren't compromised are the people that are practicing in their own heart in their own way. And if they're blessed enough to find like-minded people around them and can do a small Bible study group or something, that's it. Because these main churches are all compromised when you get to the highest levels. We've discussed it. Most of them, a lot of them are practicing straight up Satanism. And
Yeah,
so, and they don't know it. Their parishioners don't know it.
yeah,
And
absolutely. I have a friend. Well, I had a friend who was a good friend, I thought, when we were really close. And then, something came up. This was a few years back, maybe like 5 years ago now. Something came up about the Mandela effect with the word matrix in the Bible. Now, this friend of mine at the time had a dog named Matrix, and she was very much into the Bible and doing like Bible studies. I never did a Bible study with her. However, I did talk to her about this word in the Bible, matrix, that's there instead of the original word was like womb, like you are come from your mother's womb. Well, now it says you've come from your mother's matrix. And I showed that to her and she was blown away. And then she went and talked to her Bible study pastor. And then after that, I was enemy number one. And the things that occurred after that point, I could not even believe that she was doing and saying about me. It was like, I didn't do anything to this girl. I just shared some information. I didn't shove it down her throat. I just showed her. And it was like she knew that word wasn't there because her dog's name Matrix. Okay. She would know if Matrix was in the Bible.
right, you think, yeah.
But after that, I became enemy number one. And it was like, she didn't even talk to me about it. She just went on this ignoring me thing. And then when I did run into her, she like practically ran from me as if I was going to come axe her or something. And I just didn't understand what was going on. I was like, I just don't understand why you don't want to talk to me. Like, at least tell me what your problem is. Why aren't you, we're not friends now? I don't even know. But yeah, and I've never talked to her again since. So, I deal with certain things in my life. I just move on though. I don't hate her. It is what it is. And, I pray for her, I have no hard feelings. And that's that. I've had plenty of really shitty things happen to me in my life. I had not the greatest childhood. Not that I'm going to tell anybody what my story is, but I there was a lot of things in my childhood that, I could have been like, well, I don't understand why I even grew up in this why did things happen like this? And hold some kind of grudge against God for it. But at the end of the day, I better understand now through this journey where we're at and what time it is and who's got dominion here. And I know that once I leave this place, I'm going back to my Father in heaven. So, and even if I don't go there and I go somewhere else, well, then that's probably where I deserve to go. But that's neither here nor there. I've asked forgiveness for my sins, and I don't hold anybody else, accountable for what they got going on. It's between them and God, and they need to hold themselves accountable. But at the end of the day, we all have to look at ourselves and how we feel and look at this world and the people in it and who've done us wrong and who've done us good. And we live in a very unjust place right now. I mean, even if you went to court for something, they say that it's the just place to go and you're going to get justice. But most people,
No.
you don't get that.
Right, that's the thing, and this goes all the way back. Anytime I ever did anything through the court system, it's not set up. It's set up for failure.
Oh yeah.
And if the system is, as we talk about, and also people on these auditing channels we watch, you can see how corrupt it is. But to try to fix it from the inside, it's going to be really tough. And the best thing we can do is try to keep our, like in school, keep our heads down and not get noticed from the teacher, and because you end up in courts, and it's just yeah.
The thing is in the spiritual level, our light is shining bright and it attracts. They can see us a mile away. This is why we can walk into a room of people we don't know and we already feel hatred towards us. We can see snide looks and remarks, or people just don't like us for no reason at all. They just don't, because they're on another level of where their journey is, and they're trapped in this hatred, and they don't like to see people rising above all that hatred and being protected by God, because they are on the right path and they're not deceiving people, and
And
trying
when
to be on the righteous side of things is what I'm trying to say.
well, the other thing is I'm finding out that very few people actually read the Bible on a daily basis and know what's in it. And so it's like everything else when we listen to the scientists, the NASA and all that. We just expected other people smarter than us have read it, and they'll tell us what's there, what's not there, what to read and not even to read it. And yet when you find passages, like for instance, I remember when I was reading through it and it said in the end times that families were going to turn against each other, like brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and daughters and everyone and everyone. And so I distinctly remember telling my wife that, because this is when I was on my beginning walk with this. I'm like, well, he's not right about this. Like I'm arguing like with God now, like, oh, he doesn't know, because my family, we've never had that in all the years. It's always been everyone together. We fight for maybe at most a week and then it's over. And yet, we've had issues and still do. There's blow-ups and stuff that have happened. And so then I start seeing like throughout everywhere, we've never been more divided as not just a nation, but as the world. Like people are fighting over politics and all the stuff that they told us we had to do over the last 4 years. What's really going on in the world. I can't even talk too much about it on YouTube. We all know what I'm saying. And so people have taken sides in everything, red team, blue team. I mean, it's on everything. They make us take sides and fight with each other. And you think back, it wasn't that long ago when you can sit in a room and have a bunch of people together that had different opinions and you'd all have a conversation. Sometimes they got a little heated and sometimes they didn't. And then it was over. It was like, okay, good night. And you could have differences of opinion and possibly sway someone in your position, rarely, but now they've produced it in this society that if your opinion is different, then they're out and they won't talk to you and whatever. And so that's another one of these hard things that we have to learn, is to have the patience that God has. And then people that are against him, they're like, well, what about all the times he had wrath and he's going to smack down this and destroy that? Yeah, but you've got to read all the other pages where he was so patient. Like we were talking the other day about Nineveh. He said, I'm going to destroy it. But then he gave him 40 days to figure it out. And when the original flood came around, it was like over 100 years they had to figure it out. So he is extremely patient. And so that's what we have to learn, because not only are we going to be getting the persecution that Jesus has felt, but we have to act and learn like him and be able to be patient and turn that cheek when something bad happens to someone. Now, how is that possible? It's almost impossible. I mean, horrific crimes happen all the time. To be honest with you, I don't really know of a single woman that hasn't had some kind of trauma, let's say, in their lives. It seems like an epidemic throughout history. And so there's so many people that for no reason of their own, they get hurt. And why do children get hurt? And there's so many questions that I can't answer. None of us have that pay grade, only God. But we can tell is that the suffering that's happening, people will believe in the devil and they'll believe in evil and then not believe in God.
Yeah.
And so if you're focused and fixated only on the devil and the negative things that happen and say, well, this isn't fair, why did this happen to me or this person? Then that's all you're going to see. If you look at everything, a hammer always looks at everything as a nail. And if you look at that way, yeah, there's a lot of horribleness and suffering that goes on in the world. But are you looking at God? Are you finding the blessings, the things that have happened in your life and those people's lives that have turned out to be a blessing? And if you work on that faith like any muscle and it grows, then you're going to find your way through those tough times. But I'm not saying they won't ever happen or go away. And that person that hurt you or hurt that person you love, you have to forgive them. You don't have to forget it.
Exactly.
But you have to forgive them, because someone said it perfectly in the chat a minute ago. And it said something like, where was it? It said olive juice. It says, forgive those who hurt us, because our Father won't know you at judgment time. But also, he's going to judge them at judgment time.
Yeah.
And so that's where you kind of have to try to, I mean, this is a process. I didn't just wake up and talk like this. I wouldn't even recognize myself a few years back. But you have to put it in a shelf to where you say, okay, I'll forgive this person because, and you try to throw something in it. Maybe they had a demon in them. Maybe they had poor childhood. Maybe they're just a horrible person, whatever. And I'll forgive them because God will judge them and not fixate on them, because then they're stealing your soul too at the same time, right? They're taking all your joy because you're spending all that time fixated on them. You walk away, you say, look, I'm not going to give them more attention. They have judgment coming. I'll pray for them because that's what we're supposed to do. God says it's so easy to pray for your friends. The real test is, can you pray for your enemies?
Yep. Exactly.
It's not an easy walk to walk like Jesus. That's why really no one can do it.
And it's amazing to me how many people have such an issue with talking about any of this. But, you know, all the other so-called religions out there, you know, nobody has anything to say about any of that. But it's when it comes to, you know, God and Jesus, it just ruffles so many feathers because so many people are jaded from this life. And they're of the world. They're being of this world, and we're not of this world. We're not. We're in it, but we're not of it. We don't belong here. In the way it happens, the way all this unfolded with Adam and Eve and Lucifer and all this stuff, it really wasn't meant to be this way. But in some, God had given them free will, and they chose to, you know, take part in this tree that they weren't supposed to take part in. And, you know, that kind of put a little speed bump in the whole plan that God had here. So then he had to act accordingly from that point on. And this is what he said that has to happen. And at the end of it all, he'll bring us home. But people who get themselves trapped in all this animosity and not forgiveness for whatever's happened to them, or even the things that they may have done and they can't even forgive themselves, or for whatever reason, or think that God's not with them because they've done something horrible in their life and they've never even tried to ask for forgiveness because maybe they're too ashamed or whatever. This world really puts you through some paces here and really challenges us. And there is a duality here. There's good and evil. There's light and dark. There's night and day. There's love and hate. But we wouldn't know none of this if we were just in heaven. You know, we would never know hate if we only knew love. We would never know darkness if we never experienced it. Adam and Eve had never experienced darkness. They were freaking out when they finally experienced it. You know, they're like, "Wait, what's this darkness? I can't see you." You know?
Yeah.
So in a way, at the end of it all, you know, we're all going to leave this place. None of us gets out of here alive. We'll all meet up on the other side, and the ones who don't repent and don't ask for forgiveness, or don't start to, you know, love thy neighbor, treat others how you would like to be treated, and obey the commandments, which are basic commandments. I mean, you know, don't steal, don't murder, you know, don't do all this hate and all this stuff. They're pretty easy commandments to live by. But then again, you have free will to do what thou wilt if you want. You know, that's also an option for you too. But it's not going to get you where you need to be, because do what thou wilt is only going to bring you these earthly pleasures, or even the pleasure that you might take in screwing somebody over because, you know, they screwed you over. You know what I mean? So I'm going to get that person back. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have screwed me over in my life, but I've never been the kind of person ever, whether I had God in my life or not, I've never been the kind of person that, well, he screwed me over. Well, now I'm going to go screw them over. You know, I'm not like that. But there are people that are like that, you know, because they're service to self, and I'm not a service to self kind of person. I'm a service to others. I don't want to ever make anybody feel bad or horrible, because I know what it's like to have somebody make you feel bad and horrible and stab you in the back, and it sucks. And I feel bad when I see people get that treatment from other people. I remember working with this one girl. I watched her get chewed out by my manager, and she was really upset. And the first thing I saw her do was take it out on somebody else and make them feel bad. And then I could tell that she felt better. And that person, I went and I consoled them. I'm like, look, just don't worry about it. It's okay. We'll do this. We'll do that. And she's like, but man, she really laid into me. And I didn't tell her, well, somebody just laid into her. That's why she just laid into you.
She's doing the whole pay it forward really wrong. That's not the way to do it.
Exactly. And
You're
you might
doing
say,
it wrong.
okay, well, this turn the other cheek thing, I don't get it. But that's kind of what it means to turn the other cheek. It's like you don't want to go and further that pain and spread it to other people because you feel like shit, or
Because then you're prolonging it, and it's like they say, energy never leaves. So you're just continuing that negative energy.
Yep. Melanie just got here. What's up, Melanie?
Finally.
You're a little tardy, but that's okay. We'll give you.
I've heard that about her.
Oh,
Jen, I figured I'd throw it on Rock.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please. I do it to you way more. I threw it up on Rockfin too, in case someone wants to check us over there. I see one.
Oh yeah, that's great. No problem at all. Like I said, I don't force my views on anybody. If you don't want to hear this, it's okay to change the channel. If you want to come back some other time when I'm talking about meltology or all the other topics that we talk about, which I don't talk about a whole lot of other topics because all the other topics, when I talk about them, I get in trouble. So, that's okay. No hard feelings. I get it if this isn't for you. Maybe you're not there yet. But if we can help somebody get there and be, and this whole book of Adam and Eve, people are like, oh, here's another book that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, found it behind a couch, they said. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. It's like, what's going on? Okay, we know that books have been left out. We know it's been manipulated because Lucifer doesn't want us to know the whole story.
Can I add something to that? We're literally, as far as we believe, we're in the apocalypse, which is the Great Awakening.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference. Armageddon is like the nastiness. The apocalypse is just the Great Awakening. So, of course, all of these books suddenly are appearing that we hadn't heard of.
All is being revealed. Everything that is hidden is being revealed. So if you're hearing that there's books that they left out, well, that's because it's been hidden from you. All this different stuff. And then you think, well, where can I turn? I don't even, the whole Mandela effect, changing the Bible and stuff. Like you always say, CFM, you can still find God's word in there.
Yeah.
It's not complete. He will never let the word completely go away. The people who have it written on their hearts, when there is a famine in the land and you can't find it anymore, you can find it with people who do have it written on their hearts.
You know what I find fascinating? People that actually believe in God and people that actually believe in the Bible, and yet they don't want to discuss things are changing in it because they're afraid the word of God can change. And yet the God I believe in, that created everything and everyone, you don't think he still can't get his message through that book no matter what happens to it? Well, proof is in the pudding. We're reading it and we're discussing it and it's working.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, he can still get his message through. Give me a break with that whole it can't change.
Absolutely. I mean, the Christians that were being thrown to the lions in supposed Roman times, if that really happened, I'm sure those Christians were probably wondering why they just had to watch their son get eaten by a lion and now they're next. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you see, you have to understand when they leave this world, and I'm sure God would probably make it quicker for them rather than suffer too much from a lion eating you. Your rewards in heaven are great. They really are. And now, not to say like, well, you have to suffer here to be rewarded in heaven. But if you are suffering here and you feel like you're all alone in your suffering and there is no help, whatever, because you have to understand we're in Lucifer's world here. And you didn't hear them throwing the Muslims to the lions. You didn't hear them throwing the Hindus or whatever to the lions. It's always the Christians. Yeah. Even the apostles who stuck with Jesus afterwards, when they were on their own, they came after them guys. I mean, one of them, I don't know if it was Peter or maybe it was Paul or somebody was thrown in a hot cauldron of oil. They tried to boil his ass in oil, and you know what? He jumped out and ran away. They couldn't believe it, that he was unscathed, because God protected him, and he still had a message to get out there to people. And
that's the same as what I was saying earlier. Abraham, and I correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but I believe it's his brother. They were both cast into a fire, kind of like the story of Daniel. Mm-hmm. But the difference was Abraham's heart was right with God, and his brother was just saying whatever, was necessary. And if he was wrong, he was going to go with the other team. And so when he got in, he burned right up because God read his heart and it wasn't true. And
Mhm.
so it's the same thing. It's like Abraham's heart was true. And so, yeah, we're going to suffer and we're going to have things and people around us that are suffering. And as it says in the Bible, it's going to exhaust us.
Mhm.
But we can't lose the faith in it because there's an ending to this story and Jesus overcomes all of it. And so we've won. So we need to remember, myself included, we stand and come from a position of power. We've already won. We're not praying that Jesus is going to take on Satan and defeat him. He already did that. It's done.
Mhm.
It's finished. We need to remember that as a people. That's the thing that's tough. When you see the suffering, you forget that part. This is a short season of Satan, or little season. He doesn't have much time. He's throwing everything at us he possibly can,
Yep.
because he knows he's already lost. So what is he trying to do? As eventually we'll read this book, he's trying to get all of God's children to end up with him because
Mhm.
he hates us this much.
Yeah. If he's burning the house down, and he's going to try to take as many of us souls with him as he can, and there is no reward in hell except for eternal damnation. It's not like you're going to get rewarded for all your wickedness and sit at the right hand of Satan and have all the gold and jewels and women and cars you want in hell. No, that's not the way it is. As a matter of fact, he hates you so much that he's manipulated you to work on his side. And then when he gets your soul, he's going to torture you even more above everybody else, because you sold out your soul for him, and you sold out humanity for him and God. And it's like, you're even going to get it worse.
Yeah, Steve would say no bueno. And
Yeah.
thank you for the hallelujah, GJ. That's cool.
Yeah, hallelujah. Thank you, DJ. Again, even though the most recent things that I've gone through with people, I have forgiveness. I don't hold animosity. However, I choose not to surround myself with people who are snakes or wolves in sheep's clothing, or pretending to be something they're not. Or act one way towards me, but then as soon as I turn around, they're more than eager to shove a knife in my back. I don't associate with those people anymore, but that doesn't mean that I'm sitting here holding animosity towards them neither. I see their fruits. They've showed them to me. It would be stupid of me to ignore that and go back for more. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And we've been through this so many times. I mean, we're almost at the level where they call OGs, because we were both doing things in 2017, and we've seen so many of this type of action from different people that we, not that we're used to it, but every time we think, okay, I won't fall for it again. But no, we get fooled again, unlike the Who song. And we get fooled. But that's part of read the books of Adam and Eve, like we're going to try. How many times does he get fooled? They both get fooled by Satan after God says, don't get fooled again. And then he fools them again. It's just in our nature, And so
my ex-husband, he doesn't have God in his heart. So what he tries to do is he tries to fill the void of not having God in his heart with things of this earth. So much so that since I've left him and moved on with my life, he's become a hoarder. And I had seen some pictures of the inside of my old house, which he still lives in. And I was like floored at what I saw in this house from these pictures. And I felt compelled to leave him a message. I said, look, you need to let go of all that stuff that you're hoarding. I said, because it's not going to get you anywhere. It's not. What you need to do is give it away, and give it away freely, and ask God for forgiveness, because there's a special place in hell for hoarders, and it has nothing but chains and huge boulders and chains attached to you, weighing you down, because you were so attached to the things here that you couldn't part with them. And see that this is earthly stuff, and you need to not hoard it all for yourself. Give it away freely, or donate it somewhere where people can use it, instead of letting it pile up in your house because you think you're going to need it someday. And it's really sad state of affairs. You can really see where people's spiritual states are when you look at, say, even what goes on in their personal areas, like their own homes. Even like there's people that you may work with that you have no idea what their homes look like, and only to find out, say, they were a really bad hoarder. why would somebody do that? Why would somebody hoard stuff to the
Well,
point where they can't even move around in their own house? And it's not a small house, it's a big house.
First of all, I can understand if Jen leaves you, you're a broken person. I get that. That's number one. Number two, it is interesting. I just saw something recently, and they said we're so fixated on worldly things and our worldly problems that if we take time to step back and realize that, saying like at some point, say 50, 100 years from now, someone else will own all of your stuff. Someone else will be living in your house,
Mhm.
and give it a generation or so, they won't even recognize your photograph. And
Mhm.
it's such a temporary place that we live in that we have to remember not only to spend time and enjoyment. And for me, that's around family or friends if you can. And if you don't, then I understand these YouTube channels. It is a place for people to get that feeling when you don't have it. But spend some time with God if you're not, and get some joy in your life. Figure out ways that you can. There's 1,000 ways that you can try to find it, because everything else is fear. And since we have a short time on here, God doesn't want you to live in fear. He says that more than anything in the Bible, to not
Mhm.
have fear. And
Right.
so,
But what's the
yeah,
main thing that they propagate in this reality?
right.
Fear porn, left and right. Even with the eclipse, there was so much fear
Oh
porn
my
with it
goodness.
and everything. Why do they want us trapped in fear? Because God says, don't fear anything here. You have nothing to fear. If you want to fear something, fear the fact that I could send your soul to hell, your eternal soul, instead of having, eternal bliss in heaven and being there, you could have eternal damnation. And that's way longer than the puny little lives that we have here on this physical plane.
And something I'd heard a long time ago too, that seems like they say that, what is it, 90% of Christians make the rest look bad. And I know it's a joke, but there are people that go around and use the Bible and Jesus or whatever as a weapon, and
Mm-hmm.
weaponize it and say, you're going to hell, you got to do this, you're going to hell, repent. That's not our message. Here's our message. We believe all these things that are being told to us. We'll put that information out on a live stream, and you have your free will to choose to listen to it or not. That's it. I'll never be the guy in the street corner. Well, at least not yet. But for now, I don't see myself ever being that guy in the street corner. This is as much street corner yelling as I'll do.
Mm-hmm.
Is this. And that's what we're here supposed to be doing. And maybe we turn off, 99% of the audience, and that one person that was waiting to hear this message. They say that heaven celebrates when you save one soul. And let me tell you, I bet you it doesn't hurt, as my people say, couldn't hoit, the fact that you do that when it's your judgment time. I
Yeah.
know that God's got a list for me, and hopefully I'll have a voice and say, okay, I hear you, but can we start with the things I did at the end here, like these shows and these people and whatever, and then work our way backwards? I know obviously it's his decision, but that's what I feel is like the
Yeah.
things that we're doing now, they're definitely getting recorded, and I'm not doing it for that purpose. I'm doing it because, just like all the other things we've discussed, I don't want other people to suffer, and I want them to figure it out on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, geez. There's just so much going on, and I don't even know how to sift through it all, but I trust in God. I know He's got a plan for me, and I don't want to deviate from that plan. And I have seen God work in my life here, where as more as I've drawn closer to God and Jesus, the more I've been able to pick up on when they're talking to me, when they're sending me a message, or we expect that they're just gonna say something in our head or write it down on a paper or leave us a message on the fridge or something. That's not the way it works. Just like Lucifer works through people to get to us, God works through people as well. And He's even worked through people who aren't even on His side, unbeknownst to them, to
Yeah.
get messages to me and stuff, and I've even dealt with this in my own life. My husband, he's not very religious or anything. He's very open-minded and looks at all of the stuff across the table. Maybe he was gravitating more towards something else, but at the end of the day, he's a good man. But he doesn't proclaim belief in any one particular thing. And then I'm moving down this road, and so there was a little thing with him and I. It's like, well, wait a minute, you're kind of like different now, and what do you mean I'm different? And he saw a difference in me. And I've never tried to pull him into this. I've never tried to force it onto him. It's just where I'm going, and he sees it, and he does see a difference in me, but also he did feel a little threatened by it at one point, and we worked through it. And now he's, also trying to look into a lot of stuff that I'm talking about, and allowing, for me to share stuff with him and be more attentive to what we're talking about here, because there's so much stuff out there that leads you away from God and his teachings, because they say, well, the Bible's based on older stuff from the Anunnaki and the Sumerians, and the story epic of Gilgamesh is really from over here, and just got added in over there. And to me now, when I look back at all that stuff that I used to look at, for me it was a distraction away from, even when I heard George Carlin do that skit, oh, religion, the biggest con game, they have everybody believing that there's a man in the clouds and he's watching everything you do, and he's gonna, and I thought, back in the day when I listened to that, I was like, yeah, haha, that's probably, yeah, that's, he's right. But now when I heard it the other day, I was like, oh my God, turn that off. I can't even listen to it. Like, he's blaspheming right now. And this is what he's doing on stage, turning people away from God.
Yeah, because that's part of that whole, they give you some truth and then they throw in this other stuff. And everyone replays that thing where he talks about there's a big club and you ain't in it and all these things. And then he'll throw that other one at you, the lie, and say, yeah, it's all just, smoke and mirrors. There's no God. And growing up, that's kind of, I felt that it was just being morally right. The idea of God as a perception. Of course, I believed he lived on a ball, and I believed in evolution, all the things. Why? Because I never took any time to look into it. Why? Because since I was 5 years old, a person supposedly smarter than me, wearing a white coat or a teacher's outfit or whatever, told me, you live on a ball, you fly through space, the sun's 400 times bigger, but 400 million miles away, bigger, and all this stuff and evolution and everything. So why would you ever question it? So when you do question it later in life, like we do now, people go, oh my God, we solved that when I was 5 years old. What's the matter with you? And they don't take the time to look at it. And it's the same ideology they put towards the Bible. I made my connection with God spiritually without the Bible. I picked up the Bible because I was watching things unfold on these truth channels and showing me these things are going on, and they matched stuff in that book. And so why, as someone that believes in truth, you would ignore the book that's being played out in front of your eyes? And then finally, it even says in there that the truth is Jesus. So of course, if you don't know Jesus, well, you don't know all the truth. You think you're there, but you fell down right at the finish line. You believe in flat earth, but you don't understand why. You believe in a firmament, but you don't know why. You believe in there's a Mandela effect, but you don't know why. I mean, it's just on and on and on. And there's no explanation if you take the Bible away. They have nothing. You don't believe that mountains were melted. Some of them were melted buildings, but you don't know how they grow anyways. So it's like they don't have a side. If they would present something, but they don't, because they know in their heart it's true. And so you're fighting against it, but that's your own decision to make. We have free will. But I truly, in my mind, there are no atheists. I think everyone believes in God. Some people choose not to. Why can I say that? They make that joke. There's no atheist in a foxhole. When things get just to shit and you have nothing left, people crowd for God. Oh, okay.
They're not crying out for Lucifer. They're crying out for God.
Right. So then why in the heck do bad things happen in life? Because when everything's good, everyone forgets God. So let's have a little wrath. I'm not wishing for it, but that's what usually happens. And then suddenly people remember he's there and they go, God help us. And maybe his wrath sometimes is just like he did with Job. He releases his hand. You want to run it on your own and you don't want to believe in me? Fine, go ahead, see what happens. And he lets go of us. And then Satan just has his way with the world. And then we cry out and go, God, come back. He's like, okay, What'd you need? You didn't need me a minute ago. You want me again? And I understand that, because if he made everything and everyone, he wants a relationship, but we just walk away and we pray to Apple computers and stuff.
Yeah, well, we're more willing to worship the pleasures and rewards of this world here, and people, they don't know God, and he'll be like, well, I don't know you. And not only do I not know you because you didn't want to know me, you've actually turned people from me. So there's that, and I got to say, I am guilty of that. There was a time in my life when I was looking at all this stuff and I was questioning this whole story and Bible and everything and the whole story of Jesus, because I watched the movie Zeitgeist, and I was, I was really into that thing. And I thought, well, maybe this is the way it is. And I made copies of it and I gave it out to people. And I bet I probably turned some people away from Jesus. I had to ask forgiveness for that. Every day I ask forgiveness for that, because now where I'm at with learning all the new stuff that I've learned, I realize that they're hiding God. They're hiding God's creation. They're hiding God's judgment. They're trying to hide Jesus and turn people away from Jesus. Why would that be? Why are they working so hard to tell us we're on a ball? Why are they working so hard to tell us that geology is real and it takes millions of years for all this shit to form? Why are they hiding God's judgment and all this stuff and trying? Because they don't want. He doesn't want you to believe in God and Jesus. He wants you to think that that's the fallacy and he is the truth and the way.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. I ask for forgiveness every day for ever giving out that DVD to anybody.
Well, can I say something? You should see what he says. But I had a thing where I would ask the same every time I talked with God in the beginning. I would apologize because I didn't know him. Because I'm, I don't want to say I don't, upset the ladies, but I'm in my 50s. And I didn't know him until then.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time I'd start with, I'm sorry that I didn't know you until now. And then this is how God will talk to me. I just had this thought in my head and I could tell it wasn't mine. It just was there. And you can stop saying that, because he knows, and he's already heard it. He knows I'm repentive. And so I would almost say the same thing to you. You could ask him, but I bet you he knows, Jen. He knows you were deceived when you did it. You have a repentant heart for it. You've told him dozens and dozens of times. I bet he'd be okay if you don't.
And
feel
I'm showing it with my actions now by talking about it, by showing people by example, and I'm not even.
But you need to forgive yourself, because he's already forgiven us, and we're our own worst enemies. And I do this too, and we need to let that go.
Well, and now look at all the heat I'm getting for even talking about God or Jesus or millennial reign.
But that's good. That means you're doing it right.
Exactly.
Yes.
And if I have to pay these dues and my armor gets some dents in it, well, that's the way it is. Thank God I have God's armor to protect me. And if I don't have any dents on my armor, well, I must not be doing it right, because that's what the armor's for. And I have taken a lot of hits, and this armor has protected me. I mean, sure, there's times when I get a little frustrated with everything, and I get, emotional, by myself, just thinking about this, like, gosh, it's just so easy for people who I thought, were possibly, good people and, not going to stab me in the back, just stab me in the back. And it's like, I don't understand it. I can't ever understand it, but it's just is what it is. And I have to keep moving forward, and I'm not going to hold animosity towards anybody. However, I'm never going to forget what happened, because if I forget, then I'm going to go back and get hurt all over again. So I learned something from that experience. I forgive them. I forgive myself for ever even putting myself in those positions or anything that I've done. But now my job is to bring people closer to God and Jesus, and see and show people how they're being hidden from everybody. You know how many people are walking around with the peace sign the wrong way and drinking monster drinks and going to church and saying they're Christians, but at every turn they're actually worshiping Lucifer, but they just don't know it. They think they're not doing anything wrong, but they have no idea the real meaning of all these things that they're doing and stuff. Because, Lucifer's a great deceiver, and he deceives everybody. I've been deceived plenty of times. You try to tell somebody that, that monster drink, it actually means this. And, look, your son's wearing that shirt to church. I mean, if you really knew what it meant, would you wear that to church?
Yeah.
I mean, come
Well, but
on.
that's it. We're deceived. We don't know. We don't. It's
Yeah.
all this hidden language that goes on around
Deception's
us.
the name of the game, and here we are in the middle of it all, and we have to find our way through it. And if you don't believe in God and Jesus, that's fine. That's between you and God and Jesus. There's nothing I can do about it. But if I can bring somebody closer to this and find their own personal connections with God and Jesus, that's great too. But I'm not going to stop what I'm doing because somebody doesn't like it. I can't.
We can't.
I can't.
It's no more than denying my right arm exists. It's there. I see it.
I see the melt. I see the destruction. I went looking for it. I found it. I found it in the Bible. It's even in the Quran. You can look at Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, all this stuff. God's judgment. That's what it is. So why would I sit around calling it an X factor anymore when now I know what an X factor is generalized, meaning like, okay, it's an X factor. Like this
Well,
is
that's what
the name you
Elon.
give it when you don't know what it actually was. You call it an X factor event.
It sounds
Okay.
like something Elon invented. Elon, because
Yeah,
everything's X.
SpaceX, you got X Twitter, and the X Factor. If that's what you want to call it, that's fine. I don't care. But in my book, from what I've learned and what I see now, it's actually God's judgment. And you don't want to be on the wrong side of God's judgment. Just saying. Anyway, let's get to what we were going to talk about tonight, which is the book of Adam and Eve. We did the same thing last time. We spent a whole hour chit chatting before we ever got into it. And here we
I
are.
don't know how else to do this show, honestly.
I feel so much better though when I can get all this out. And I am a very forgiving person. However, I'm never going to forget the things that happened to me because I grow from those experiences. And I never allow myself to go back and put myself into those situations. Like I'm not going to forgive somebody and go back for more. You know what I mean? I know what they're capable of. And until they've changed their lives around and come to Jesus, I can't be around them because they'll only stab more knives in my back or try to sabotage me. If you've come to Jesus, then you would ask for forgiveness for what you've done to other people and also ask forgiveness from them. And through your actions, which are your fruits, I would see that you actually meant what you said. And maybe I would feel comfortable being around you again. However, I can't go back for more because I've already been down that road and I know what I'm going to get. So why go back for more? You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is it says, what did somebody say here? It was, I think 16 Alpha said, sometimes we regret not doing bad stuff, to be honest. And what's interesting is, that's the thing. We've all have a past, and maybe some of us have done more things that would, obviously not way God wanted us to choose in our past. And even if we maybe had a great time, the thing is when we get to this state of being, of understanding God and what he wants from us, he knows we have a past. It's just, are you reveling in it still? Are you looking back like those were the good old days? Because if you are, you're doing it wrong. Because God wants more from you than that. He wants you to repent for the things that, were very questionable, even if you made it out probably by his grace, and then look forward to the joy that you'll be able to get in doing the things correctly. And we get to heaven, I truly believe. I think it's mostly Paul's writing. It's another thing people get mad over when I talk about Paul, some people, but in any case, we're saved by grace and faith. Jesus even says it. Because if we're not, then Jesus Christ died in vain. There's no reason. If we're just saved by works, and the works are like, the 10 commandments on the tables, and that was the law that was given to, the people in Moses' time. And there's people still stuck in that. The people over with they think they have their Star of David, but it's Moloch's flag. And they believe that they still need to follow that. And Jesus didn't come and change that. And so when you change your heart the way God wants us to with Jesus, those works are just expected out of you. Like once you start understanding God, you think he's going to want you to murder or steal or covet or any of those things. He'll just expect you to know better because he's changed your heart. And if you're still doing those things, then he didn't change your heart. And maybe we won't recognize it, but he will. And so that's where it's at.
And like you said before, Jesus said, you want to follow me? Come pick up the cross. They hate me. They're going to hate you.
Yeah.
If you walk this walk with me, they're going to hate you. They're going to persecute you. They're going to throw stones and try to tarnish your name and tear you down and crucify your ass if they can. Whether it's just, assassination of your character on YouTube, of whatever, discredit you, they're going to come after you. But it's once you understand what you're dealing with and that you have the full armor of God on and he's going to protect you, then it's a whole different ballgame.
And who knew that even Aerosmith plagiarizes Jesus? Walk this way, talk this way.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
I don't know. I'm just making that one up. But, what is it? Ecclesiastes? And I think I'm saying it right. It's that entire song by, was it the Birds? Turn, turn, turn.
Mm-hmm.
I started reading the Bible and all of a sudden there's the lyrics to the song. I'm like, well, isn't that something? You just took this blatantly and just put music to it. It's pretty fascinating.
When you get more in tune with God and his word, you start to see in this world how much he's mocked. And it is so shameful and disgusting. But at the same time, they wouldn't do it if he wasn't real. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't waste so much time doing all this stuff and sucking Satan's banana if God wasn't real. Right. They wouldn't hide him. They wouldn't hide his creation or his judgment or nothing. Why are they hiding all of this stuff?
Yeah, we're all the thousands of channels bitching about the Quran or bitching about, I don't know, does Buddha have a book or any of these? They only attack the Bible. That's been attacked for generations. It's the most printed book. It's the most argued. It's wild. I mean, it's so obvious in your face. Yeah. Why is this one book? If it was all about programming and a dogma to control people, well, why would they make it available to everyone? Why wouldn't they force you to read it? Right? Yeah. Why wouldn't they jam it down your throats like they do fake space and all that? Mm-hmm. It's because it is real and they don't want you to know it. I mean, the evil powers that be, the puppeteers, they write it on their damn tombstones. They got, what is it, Werner von Braun? He sticks the Psalm, what is it? I always forget, 19:1 or 91:1 or something, where it the firmament is, declared there. Like it's in your face. Yeah. There was another one just the other day I came across, I think it was you with the live stream, and we looked at the tombstone and it had some thing about Jesus or something. It's like, it's so obvious.
Yep. I remember that woman who came out, who used to work for Werner von Braun, and she was his secretary or something. And she said that he had told her before he died, it's all a lie. The aliens, all this stuff, it's all a lie. It's all a lie. But she never explained why the lie. He knew because he put it on. It was on his tombstone. He knew that this space and aliens and all this crap was a lie. But that was the lie to cover up God. That's the big lie.
And there is, people are saying, I see in the chat, the Bible is annoying. And I understand. Like my background was being Jewish. We were told not to read it. And I didn't even know I was reading the first books of Moses in Hebrew because they didn't teach me what the translations were. We had to learn another language. And so then when I actually wanted to read the Bible or see what everyone's talking about years ago, I don't know, there's like a sleep spell on it. Like I could watch Netflix, I could read any kind of book by any author, but I pick up the Bible and a couple pages in, I'm like, either my mind's wandering or I'm passing out, sleeping. And so it wasn't until I got this hunger for information and started reading it that way, and it comes alive. I don't know how else to explain it, but it comes alive. And I'm passionate about it. Not that I bury my nose in it all day long. No, I like to listen to it instead of the radio sometimes, or when I'm doing other projects, you can put it on in the background. It's a really easy way to read. That's how I read the Adam and Eve books that we're eventually going to cover tonight. And so you have to go into it like you would any other book. And if you go into it expecting it to be a negative experience, you're not going to break the cover because it's going to do that. And again, if someone, there's a lot of people I've talked to that were literally almost beaten with the Bible, like throughout their childhood. You've got to go to the church. You got to say this, you got to talk to this preacher. And it turns people off from it. And I get it, but I'm here to mention, try it again. Maybe you had a bad burger at that restaurant, but I know the chef and he's really good, and you should try it again. I don't know, bad analogy, but that's where I go. Maybe I'm hungry. Melly's talking about French fries, so I don't know. Maybe I wasn't the only one just now. I looked down and there it is.
I remember back when I first moved into this house 11 years ago. You know how people, I don't know if they do it in your area, but people around here, they come to your house to visit you at local, churches and stuff, to talk to you about Jesus and see if you want to join the church around here. And at the time I was like, well, wait a minute. You're telling me that like Buddha, who wouldn't hurt a fly, is not, he's burning in a lake of fire because he didn't, know Jesus or, whatever. And I was really adamant with them about it and stuff, because at that time in my life, I didn't have Jesus in my life. And I was looking into all this other stuff, all this alternative scripts and writings and stuff like that, and buying into some of that stuff. And I'm guilty of that. But at the same time, I've grown so much since then. And you can all see where my journey has taken me. And this is where I'm at. If you don't agree with where I'm at and it's not for you, then it's not for you. And that's okay. Because like I have a personal relationship with God and Jesus. I don't subscribe to any particular church around here. I don't go to church. And that's for my own reasons. If I felt comfortable enough to go to one and I felt like I could go there and God was there at that church, and because there are some churches where you can walk in and God's not there because it's just something's not right there. But for me, this works for me, what I have going on. If it doesn't work for you and you're not here yet and you're not, ready to accept all this, I get it. That's your journey. I'm not forcing this on anybody. But like I said, coming into the melt and learning all this stuff, what we've been showing on our shows about meltology and the different things being destroyed and melted, it led me back to the Bible. When I got into flat earth, it led me back to the Bible. All these things are leading me back to God's word and his creation.
Uh-oh. Is Jen gone? She was saying the word creation. And then there was one. Oh, she's back. Oh, dear God. Thank you.
What? Did I dip out for a second?
Yeah, you were in the middle of the word creation, and then I was trying to spitball and fill dead air.
Okay, so this is where my research has led me back to the Bible each time. Coming upon the melt and the destruction that we see, God's judgment led me back to the Bible because the melt is in there. It's in there a lot as he talks about melting things. Flat earth, when I got into that, it led me right back to the Bible. It says it in the first chapter of Genesis, how he created this place. And it certainly wasn't a ball hurtling through space. So it always leads back to the Bible. And then I have to ask myself, well, why are they lying about space? Why are they lying about this? Why do we have the geology narrative now? And it even says in geology, when you look at why it got started, it was all based on because of the Bible. They were trying to discredit the Bible and bring in a whole new narrative with millions and billions of years attached to it. So we would discard God's creation and how long it took to make it and how long it 5,500 years for this creation. And then it has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an ending. And we seem to be at the end of it. And I'm just so grateful that I finally got my head out of my ass and I came back around to Jesus, because you know what? I'm a better person for it. I'm not a bad person for it. I'm not going around talking smack, creating havoc, and trying to turn people against each other. I'm better for it. And if people can't see that I'm better for it, I've even cleaned up my act on how I talk about things. I used to be kind of a foul mouth, if you will. I admit it. But at the same time, I had to go through those things. I had to pay my dues. I had to experience what I experienced, and I had to come to my own choice. And I did. And here I am.
and here we are.
Here we are.
And it's funny. I can't even say what I used to. I used to say, "Oh, there's old Jen," because again, when we started doing shows, she had these stories about how when you were teaching, and that's why I always thought of your show as a classroom. Honestly, that's where the whole your Tardian stuff came from, because I would get in trouble as a chatter with probably Melanie. It's always her fault. And and we'd be discussing things, and Jen would say how when she was a teacher, she had to switch out words and say muffed up instead of, fucked up.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden she got really passionate about what she was talking about, and those words changed back. And so I used to say, "Oh, what would old Jen say?" And now you're changing them again. So it's fun to watch the back and forth. Now we're talking about bananas.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, God let me know in his own way that I don't have to be that foul about things. You know what I mean? And
Well, I've never said I don't curse. I've never said I don't partake in, whatever, Mary Jane. It's just I don't have to do that on a live stream ever. The problem with my dad when he was alive, he couldn't watch certain things I tried to show him. There was just too much for him offensive language. And so when I do my shows and streams, I just want to work for the biggest audience possible, and then turn the camera off and, curse like a sailor and smoke like a chimney.
I'm just grateful that I'm here at this time. I feel like I'm on my purpose when I'm here on camera talking to you guys. I'm so grateful to have you and Jeannie, CFM and Jeannie, as really close friends of mine, DJ and Melanie, and there's a few others who have come into my life who are supposed to be here now in my life, and I'm so grateful for it. The separation of the wheat and tares is happening. It's a real thing, and it will continue on until the very end, until Jesus comes back. We're going to see this falling away, and that's okay. I get it. Things are going to happen, things that you never expected, things that are going to shock you. You can't believe it. I mean, I've been experiencing it for the last 7 years, this whole wheat and tares thing, where people have come into my life and then suddenly they're just not around anymore. They don't want to talk to me for whatever reason. I'm the bad guy, so it's nothing new to me. But it is what it is. And we walk this walk, and it is a narrow path. Like you guys say all the time, the path is narrow. That is for sure. And when I got on the narrow path, people didn't like it, and then there's some people that stuck with me, and that's great. Like, again, you'll know them by their fruits. And if my fruits are good and they're not rotten, and people's fruits are rotten and they're not good, well, they're not going to vibe with what I'm saying. They can't be around me because my light is shining too bright, and it's shining a light on all their dark fruits. And then, maybe they'll have to look at themselves and look at what they've done in life and who they've hurt and who they continue to hurt. If you're going to repent from hurting people, because that's something that you do, you like to hurt others because if you're hurt, you want them to hurt too. And you say you're not going to do it anymore. And then you turn around and do it again and again. Well, that's not repenting. That's just lip service, and God don't need lip service. He needs, to see your fruits. And if you're going to say you're going to do something, you better do it and stay true to your purpose. I don't want to hurt other people. I want to treat other people how I like to be treated. This is why I don't backstab people and go behind the scenes and talk a bunch of smack and try to get channels taken down and, whatever. Because I know that could come back on me. You know what I mean? You're going to reap what you sow. And I'm trying to sow God's seeds here, and like the mustard seed and all that. And I'm not trying to be sowing rotten fruit. People can always come here and know that I'm going to stand on truth. And if that truth is inconvenient for you and you can't deal with it, then you have to change the channel. That's fine. Maybe eventually you'll come around in your own time, in your own space. I hope that you do. I pray that you do. But if you don't, and you leave this place and you find yourself standing in front of God and Jesus, and I don't know what's going to happen for you. That's a personal thing. What happens when it comes to your own judgment when you leave this place.
Yeah, and we've had, over the course of years, we've had different people that we've done shows with, and they went to different paths. And so, they went via con Dios, is how they say, go with God. So hopefully they'll see what we see. But if they don't, it's their choice. And there's passages that say, if you see a brother or sister in error and you do nothing, and then they perish, that blood's on your hands, and it'll be asked of you in judgment. And if you see them, what you feel is going down the wrong path, and you tell them and they ignore you, well, then that's again where these sayings come from. That blood's not on your hands, because you did all you could do. They have free will too. And then they use that information as they want. But we move on. We don't have ill will, and you kick the dust off and you go to the next town and you preach in a new pond. All those things are things that God says. And it's interesting. There is a discussion in the chat. Yeah, they mix up our words, especially in English. The difference between swearing and cussing and cursing. I mean, they talk about Bible not to curse and swear, but it's different than cussing. And they've mixed up the words here. So the reason I stay away from it, at least on streams as best I can, is just because some people find cussing offensive. But it's not because I think that God is feeling that now I'm doing something against his, it's not a curse or a swear. Those are very specific things. A cuss is just words that some people find offensive. But hey, I get it. There's that one word, for unlawful carnal knowledge. How about we say it that way? It can be so descriptive and sometimes so very useful. So, there are times I can see it, but when you overuse it, like when you start using that hammer, not just to pound in the nail, but then to like turn on the TV and open the fridge, and you got to put it down sometime and not just use it all the time, or it loses its everything. How'd that one? Was that a good analogy?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I had a friend here because I live in the South, the Bible Belt, and I didn't know that you can't say. They call it here GD, which means goddamn, right? So
you can't say it out there.
You can't say it. If you say it, like they get really upset with you. Like you can't say DG.
Wow.
So it's a thing for them. And I said it one time, and my girlfriend's like, you can't say that. I'm like, say what? She's like, GD. And I'm like, GD. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, God damn. Like, you can't say that. And I'm like, okay, all right. No problem. But yeah, I just feel like I'm belittling myself by using those terms all the time in such a foul way. I don't see myself yelling out the window, fuck you, to somebody who just cut me off. I'm just like, all right, well, apparently they got to get somewhere quicker than I do. Hopefully I'll pray that they get there safely, because I had somebody almost run me off the road one day and scared the crap out of me. Almost went over the side of a really deep embankment, but it happened. And, I don't hate that person. I forgive them. Hopefully they don't do it to anybody else. And, maybe they needed to get somewhere really quickly and I was just too slow for them. I don't know what it was, but somebody's always trying to take me out somewhere.
Right. And not to lunch.
Yeah, right.
But that's another thing too. Like that story, you feel like you should have been in a crash, but you weren't. And so once again, if instead, not that everyone does this, but we seem to fixate more on the bad things going on in our lives than that moment we didn't die in that crash or get in that bad accident. That was a blessing. Obviously, God protected you at that moment. I've had those. When I look back on them, what I thought was just luck or good fortune, no, it was God.
And God sees me through all this crazy YouTube stuff. I could sit here and be all butthurt and take my channel and make it private and be like, I'm not doing this anymore. But, I know that I did nothing wrong. I know that I've spoken the truth. I know that I have not stabbed anybody in the back or tried to steer anybody away from anybody else's channel or whatever. Stay in the course. And I have to continue on this path. I can't let anybody prevent me from doing that. Try as they will. And I'm sure it won't be the last time. But it's going to come at you. The more you.
Uh-oh. There she goes again. Well, I'll say hi to Shapu.
Hey,
And
Shapu.
he said, for me, God does not care for words, only your intentions while saying them. Amen. That's true. That's very true. Because he even talks about that. He even mentions it. I can find the passage, but he says, don't be like the heathens, that they just repeat repetitive things and prayers and stuff with nothing behind it. Like he'd rather you not speak than to keep repeating things with no meaning behind it. He'd rather not hear you. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so let's get into this. We have 67 people here. Everybody's
Yay.
in the chat, chatting it up. We're going to get into the rest of the book of Adam and Eve, see how far we can get.
We did
And,
even worse this time. We're almost an hour and a half in. Last time we went an hour.
It feels so good to talk like this, though, because I
I
have
like
been dealing with my own personal turmoil here and there, and I just feel so much better when I'm able to talk about this, especially with you, CFM, and of course everybody in the chat, experiencing us talk about these things and being raw and open about it, and trying to give maybe people a perspective of where I've come from and how I've evolved to where I am right now. And
Don't forget, since we've not talked about it, we've gone up in numbers at least by 20 people. So, obviously other people are enjoying this conversation.
yeah. Anyway, we're going to look at this Adam and Eve, and we're going to talk along the way like we always do. If it's not for you and you don't want to hear it, it's okay if you dip out at this point or hang around. That's good too. If you have questions, that's no problem. Put them all in caps. I'm going to try to answer your questions as best we can along the way. So don't be shy. If you have a question, just put it on all caps so I see it right away.
And put it on in the background and do other things if you want. And I'll do my best to. I sometimes get heated over subjects and not people at all, and so I'm going to try to hold that in. But sometimes I just have to let it out, and I apologize in advance if that happens. So
yeah. So we're going to open it up on your end.
Okay, sounds painful, but here, let's see what I got here. Okay, we'll go clickety click here. And Melanie's saying, yeah, that word I mentioned can be used in so many different ways. If you look on YouTube, I'm sure you can still find it. There's a video out there.
Oh yeah,
that and it's only like a 2-minute video or something. And the guy, he uses it in every possible way. It was pretty fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah. So it definitely, it's one of the most descriptive words we have. It's kind of funny.
I like that video. I haven't seen it in such a long time.
Now let's see. Can you hear this?
The merciful God who
Yes.
Okay. So you said it was around the place that they, just killed themselves, and it's around 40 minutes in that we got.
I know.
So. Well, you were trying to push it off like we did an hour and a half. No,
I thought I did. I thought we were I thought we were at like 23rd chapter. We're on the 21st chapter. Yeah.
Well, we're just ending it. So, and for those of you who keep on score, if you weren't there for the first part, basically they've gotten tossed out of the garden. I think they've just been given this cave, and everything's brand new. Picture a baby, but full grown, trying to figure out the world. They don't even understand about the things on the ground on their feet and stuff, and why there's no light when there's, because they used to glow, and now there's nothing, and it's dark. And
and I just want to tell you, CFM, Pants On the Ground is here in the chat. Welcome, Pants On. I'm glad you came. I don't know if you saw CFM's last live stream, but he did talk to you there. And if you want to say what you said there, here, CFM, because he's here.
Just like I said, he brought up something, and it wasn't even him. I just watched that unedited truth guy who just basically said anybody that thinks that, God's reign might have happened, and he calls this the same thing as the flat earthers did, dummies and retards and all that. And I was just like, you're not helping, And then we were discussing that subject, and I think that's what I was kind of blowing up at, and it was during his question. So look, I think what you're doing is great, and it's nice to see young people questioning our reality, because so many of them don't. And so that's it. So
and he didn't mean to sound, like blowing up at you or anything. He just came off with the other question before. And I know some people, when they're in the chat, some people hear something that we say, or maybe we say it a little passionately, and they may get upset or take it the wrong way. I'm so glad you're here, Pants On, and I'm so grateful that you asked the questions that you asked, and you put the input in that you have. And I don't want anybody to feel like we're trying to, just be overly abrupt with anybody with our answers or anything like that. So I'm very grateful that you came here, and you at least got to say that to him, because I don't know if he was around for your last live stream.
Oh no, that's great. The only thing is I'll yell at him. He needs a belt still, but other than that, that's why his pants are always on the ground.
Well, somebody said we should call him No Belt, or maybe he put it in the chat recently, something about No Belt.
I used to do that. I like playing with people's avatar names.
Yeah,
mean,
I love you guys.
occasionally,
I love everybody, even the haters. I love you guys, and I respect where everybody's at, and you all need to respect where I'm at. So that's it. All
all right.
right,
So
here
shall
we
we start?
go. Yeah, let's go.
Why not? Okay. And we can, okay, here we go.
Looks upon his creatures, looked upon Adam and Eve as they lay dead, and he sent his word unto them and raised them.
And this was, we were discussing, I think, they keep doing different things where they basically are killing themselves because they're so distraught at being thrown out of the garden. And at this point, I think, if I remember, it was like the fourth, maybe fifth time that God, what does he do? He sends his word, which, the word of God is named Jesus. It's a word, it's his name. And so God speaks everything to existence. And so it sounds like he's using Jesus, the word, and he keeps reviving them because he's also the only one. Well, there are later, after Jesus is gone, people that are bringing people back, but it's basically Jesus's job. And so it's interesting. They call him the word comes and brings them back in this book. So.
And said to Adam, O Adam, all this misery which thou hast wrought upon thyself will not avail against my rule, neither will it alter the covenant of the 5,500 years. Chapter 22. Then Adam said to God, I wither in the heat. I am faint from walking, and am loath of this world, and I know not when thou wilt bring me out of it to rest. Then the Lord God said unto him, O Adam, it cannot be at present, not until thou hast ended thy days. Then shall I bring thee out of this wretched land. And Adam said to God, While I was in the garden, I knew neither heat, nor languor, neither moving about, nor trembling, nor fear. But now, since I came to this land, all this affliction has come upon me.
And see, once again, we live in a fallen world. And if these books are true, which I believe they were taken out, God literally calls it a wretched land compared to where we came from. That's so much different than where we came from, what we live in. We can still find beauty here and we can still see God, but it's not where we were supposed to be.
Yeah, I think this land was for the animals, and
Yeah.
the garden was for us. I mean, maybe at some point we would have been able to freely go from the garden to this land and then back again. Maybe it would have been a completely different story if this incursion didn't happen with the fruit and Lucifer and stuff. We don't know. It could have been a completely different story. You know what I mean? But here we are. Okay. And this is
here we
what
are.
we have to deal with. And we are all the generations from Adam and Eve all the way down to us where we are now. And are we the last generation? I don't know. We're close, I think, to the end, whatever that looks like and whatever that means.
Tina Turner said we were in Mad Max, but we
Thunderdome.
Yeah, that's the one. Thunderdome. That's a good song.
Welcome to Thunderdome.
What a mind control song and stupid movie. Oh my God, it's terrible.
Yeah, when you look at things. It's fun.
I don't even remember what I was saying now. Not on the Thunderdome. Well, let's just continue. We'll never get through this. I'll think of it later.
Then God said to Adam, So long as thou wast keeping my commandment, my light and my grace rested on thee. But when thou didst transgress my commandment, sorrow and misery befell thee in this land. And Adam wept and said, O Lord, do not cut me off for this, neither smite me with heavy plagues, nor yet repay me according to my sin. For we of our own will did transgress thy commandment and forsook thy law, and sought to become gods like unto thee, when Satan the enemy deceived us.
And that it describes like so many people's ways of thinking right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Satan was the first one, hence they get Satanism, that he said that he could be like God and take over his place.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, you can read, say, the Book of Mormon. They believe that they'll get high enough in righteousness that they'll become a god and have their own planet full of their own women to procreate with. That's their actual belief. And then you can go to what do you call it, New Ageism or Buddhism and stuff, where they think they can elevate themselves to a godly status. And so it's just like, as God says, there's nothing new under the sun. It's the same story, the same old song and dance. I don't know why I'm stuck on Aerosmith tonight, but that's what it is. It's the same old song and dance. It just has a different label. And it reminds me of what people say about me, where like first I was growing up and I was Jewish, and then I was like reading the Bible, and then I was Christian. Well, then I believe that maybe the millennial reign has already happened, and that I think is a Jehovah's Witness thinking. So like, who the heck am I? I'm just a dude or whatever, man, a child of God, and I'm searching for him without connecting myself to any kind of claim or any fraternity, club, a gang. Your cat may vary. I mean, I'm just going to be me because they keep changing the rules of their clubs, Okay. Here we go.
Then God said again unto Adam, Because thou hast borne fear and trembling in this land, languor and suffering, treading and walking about, going upon this mountain and dying from it, I will take all this upon myself in order to save thee. Chapter 23.
And that's, I guess, to me, it sounds like a foreshadowing of Jesus, right? And that's another thing that we have to remember. When God told Abraham to go up on the mountain and kill his son, he actually didn't make him do it, but he did it to his own son. So, so there's that. There's that. Okay.
Then Adam wept more and said, O God, have mercy on me, so far as to take upon thee that which I will do. But God took his word from Adam and Eve. Then Adam and Eve stood on their feet, and Adam said to Eve, Gird thyself, and I also will gird myself. And she girded herself, as Adam told her. Then Adam and Eve took stones, and placed them in the shape of an altar. And they took leaves from the trees outside the garden, with which they wiped from the face of the rock the blood they had spilled. But that which had dropped on the sand, they took together with the dust wherewith it was mingled, and offered it upon the altar as an offering unto God.
Okay. So again, just putting aside that these books are, part of the canon, this would be the very first time. This is the reason why, to this day, people are doing blood sacrifices on altars. Is Adam did it first here. Because you heard what God was pissed off, because why? He took his gift of life and tossed it away, him and Eve. And he was pissed at us. And so his way of like trying to somehow make, because again, Adam doesn't know what to do with any of this. He's never had any of this stuff in his life. So he's trying to figure out ways to get God to say, okay, I said it'd be 5,500 years, but you've done this nice thing. I'll take you back. And that's kind of everything he does. Because remember, they also got cut off being able to see and talk to the other side of the veil. And so this is a way that he thinks that he might be able to communicate with them.
Right. In the beginning, when we started talking about this and listening to the book, it did say that they were in the garden and that this land was mostly for the animals, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm looking at pants on things, and I do agree that the creation, I think the garden would be the mirror for heaven. You know what I mean? It was a different level where they could have a physicality to them. However, their physicality is not the same as the physicality out here in this world. The physicality here is at a lower vibration where, we have to feed and clothe ourselves and stuff. This is why we all feel like we don't even belong here. The animals are fine here. right? They got their fur and their feathers and whatever, and they never have to worry about shelter. You know, they just know what to do and everything's provided for them. But for us, it's a different story. However, in the garden where we were meant to be, I think it did mirror heaven, because when you listen to near-death experiences and people who've gone to heaven, they say it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, everything is, you know, the beautiful trees and the grass and the gardens and all this waterfalls, everything's just gorgeous and ever blooming. Nothing ever dies in heaven. Okay. But when you look at outside the garden, it seems to be more of a place that was for different types of animals to inhabit. You know what I mean? It wasn't really for us to be here in the capacity that we've been here, how we've been living. You know what I mean? We have to build shelter. We have to, you know, plant things to feed this body so we can eat, and put shoes on our feet so we can walk around and not get, you know, our feet don't get chopped up from the, you know, whatever we're walking on or whatnot. In that respect, that's why I think that we're seeing, you know, this type of feeling that we don't belong here, where our bodies were not created to be here like this. Because like I said, again, we have to put clothes on. You know, if it's cold, we have to figure out how to keep this body warm, or we'll die from the elements and stuff, exposure, this kind of thing. But the animals have no problem here. They survive no problem. So, I mean, but if you feel that way, that's fine too, as well. If you don't think it was for the animals, it's okay to disagree with me. Although I do like discussing this back and forth with you,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you putting that out. And then I just responded to it, and then we just keep moving forward. So at the end of the day, do I think that we really were meant to be here with our bodies the way they are? No. Everything about our bodies screams that we don't belong here. You know
Well,
what I mean?
in this book, he had to change us to live like this. That's why I also believe that we can't go back, not just because there's angels blocking the entrance. It's just kind of like when you weren't perfect, you couldn't walk into the temple, you could die. Or if you touched the mountain when God's presence was on it with Moses, you would die. Or if you touched the ark with God's word in it and you weren't pure, you would die. So it's like there's something about this system that we live in that he has to hone us to this perfection to be able to survive. And that's the whole teachings.
Also, the camp of the saints. I think that is possibly even, it could be the garden where they went to.
Yeah, there's somewhere where we're not allowed to be or can't live.
Yeah.
Because if they get glorified bodies when Jesus comes back, if that's happened,
Right.
then it would make sense that they could go to the garden, because that's, you can live there as that. And
Right.
then not until the very end of the book and everything gets judged and everything gets reset, heaven and earth pass away and the new one shows up. And that's where, you know, that would be the kingdom forever. But before that, it sounds like they could, you know, it says they're here on earth. It sounds like that's where they could be, an area that we can't live in or go to.
Yeah, the important point there is they're glorified bodies, which means it's a different kind of body than what we're experiencing. Okay, you don't have to feed it; it doesn't have to go to the bathroom. You don't need toilet paper, all this stuff. You know, like people say, like you don't need teeth where we're going. You know, because you have a glorified body. So I think in that respect, you know, there's definitely there's something to it there. You know, we don't have all the answers. We're trying to put it all together. But I've always felt, and I'm sure many of you have felt, you know, why do our bodies have no hair? If why do we have to make clothes to put on our body to clothe ourselves so we can stay warm, or you know, have food and all this stuff to take care of this body while we're here, whereas the animals seem like they're already taken care of. You know what I mean? Like you said, God doesn't, the birds don't have to worry about where their next meal's coming from or whatever. God provides for them. And he also provided them the thick skin and hides to live in the elements of this world. We don't have that. You know, most people, you know, wouldn't last 10 minutes out there in the woods. You ever see those shows, Naked and Alone or something? Naked and Afraid, that they have people out there naked in the middle of the jungle getting eaten alive by mosquitoes trying to start a fire. It really shows that we screwed up somewhere along the way, and our bodies were not fully equipped to be here. But if we have to be here now, we have to work and we have to toil, just like God said. This is what we're gonna have to do when we're here. This is why we have this night and day, and so we know that at night we could rest while we toil during the day to try to. In the garden, we didn't have to. Everything was taken care of for us. Our bodies were glorified. Adam and Eve had a light that shined in them that fed their need for anything that body needed. You know what I mean? And all it needed was the glory of God. That was the food that nourished our glorified bodies. And now we've fallen,
Yes, that's very true. I like all of that. No, I like all of that. All right, we've gone, 2 minutes? Let's go again.
All right, let's do this.
Shit.
I just want to tell you all in the chat, I'm very grateful for your comments, and I'm having a lot of fun dialoguing back and forth with you guys. I'm not saying you're wrong and I'm right, and I'm wrong and you're right, whatever. It's just a discussion. That's it.
and again, we have none of the answers. And so again, I saw Pants. He says, about do they live? I don't know. What does it say? Do people with light bodies live here in beautiful buildings? They exist only in that? No, my whole idea of this has been changing so much over the last 7 years or whatever. And so I even think that some of these buildings that we see devastated were built pre-flood, because God said that we had gone so far out of control that he had to save just that one family and those animals and everything on the ark. The rest, it says all flesh died, so nothing lived, even giants. But that would make sense why there's so many of these buildings with giant arches and stuff. Some of those buildings, I think, go all the way back. They just like they tell us that, they in the 1800s they built these monstrous buildings and everyone lived in, wooden mud huts or something, right? Because the Civil War was going on and cowboy days, but yet we're building these monstrous, post offices and museums and government buildings, right? And so those buildings, I believe, some of them got wiped down in the flood, and maybe that's some even the melt you see. You get enough pressure, water above and below, you're going to get intense heat too. There was also if you believe that Revelation has already happened, there's a great earthquake, and it's written about in the Bible many times, this great earthquake. And then you have the fire that's done there at those times. And so what is built for the millennial reign? I can't say for certain, no one can, that some of these buildings weren't built by those millennial reign people. But if they get transported to be with Jesus in Eden or something like that, they wouldn't need those buildings. And so maybe they did none of those buildings. And maybe that's just how people, because when you look at the books that I have in my Bible from the 1800s, and they showed Tower of Babel and these like cities that go on for days and all the same construction buildings and pyramids and what do you call it? Cigarettes. They got those. They got them all in this old Bible book. Well, if all that stuff was already wiped out from the flood, let's say, they were doing it again, because that keeps repeating. Maybe the giants and everyone died, but the fallen ones were still here, and they just started it all over again. And it's not like God said, "Oh, I didn't see that coming." No, that's when he's like, "I'm going to send Jesus down and warn everyone. I'm going to do another wipe."
Right.
And Revelation's coming. And then if you believe that happened, then we say the leftover buildings. So if that happened, the buildings that are left over either were original pre-flood, pre-revelation, or millennial reign. I can't prove it, neither can anyone else, one way or another. What I can know is somehow they were built in a way that we don't understand. And even in the 1800s, they were all founded. They weren't built. And so we have no record of these things ever being built. They were just always here. So maybe these are like original buildings, because God wouldn't want us living with that stuff. That's not how he envisioned us. When he throws Adam and Eve out of the garden, he just wants them to work in the soil and toil like that. He didn't tell them to build skyscrapers and internet and all that stuff. We did all that with the fallen ones. That's the way I see it.
Part of his question here is about the Pants On's question here is
What's that? Let me
about
see.
light bodies. And
Hmm.
I personally don't think that they had light bodies while they were here, is in the sense of a glorified body that does not need to be attended to. I think during that 1,000 years of peace and love and abundance on earth, they still had free will, and but they also had a connection to the spirit realm involving heaven and God that we do not have currently. Okay, we have faith.
Can I
Or
ask you then? So you're saying, I'm trying to understand. So you're saying, I like this idea. You're saying that they didn't go to a separate place like Eden yet. The millennial reign happened right where we were, and maybe that's some of these cool buildings are built then too.
yeah,
But
I
they
think.
weren't completely Adam and Eve. They were in some kind of like,
Well, what I'm saying is if Jesus died on the cross, right, and then he rose from the dead, and then a little bit of time goes by, so many years, whatever, but that's still that generation sees him come back, and and then he sends Lucifer down to be caged for a time while this 1,000 year reign is happening. People are still human and still doing their thing and still have free will. However, there's not that evil oppression over them like
hmm,
we have now. Like if you took out all the evil in the world, it would be such a better world. We would live in abundance. We would be love and joy and happiness, and we would be creating amazing things for our world as we live in it, whether they're amazing structures or whatever. I think that the creativity was on another level. I think
mhm.
that they were at a higher spiritual being because they did have that connection to the higher realms. But here in the physical world, it wasn't like a question for them if God or Jesus existed. They knew it, and they could tap into that anytime they want. Um, and having all that, and plus the love and abundance and everything, creativity. Did they create these buildings? Possibly, but I don't think that they created them in the way that we consider how we build buildings. This is why we can't understand,
Yeah.
how they built these buildings with muddy roads and all these questions and stuff. Who was building these amazing cathedrals in the 1400s or the 1200s and stuff? It's a architecture that blows your mind when you see some of these cathedrals and stuff. Could they have done it in a different way during the millennial reign because of how higher spiritual energy that they had in them? Could they collectively come together and possibly sing the glory of God and manifest that building through that glory of God there, and praise him that way? It could have happened that way, because it really does not make any sense to me at all how anybody in the 1200s or 1400s could have built these amazing architectures. Um, but I don't think that they were light bodies in the sense that you would think of Adam and Eve, how they originally were in the garden. I
Mhm.
think we get back to that type of state when we go back, when we leave here and we go to heaven. That we
Just
get out.
curious. I like this. It's an interesting theory. I'm gonna look into more about some of these words because it does say we get glorified bodies, but it doesn't necessarily say it's the same ones
Right.
as what Adam and Eve had. So that's an interesting idea because that would explain some of these things that maybe were made later, but don't have bathrooms and the things that we talk about.
Exactly. Like in
Um,
the garden, they would not have experienced old age or death or anything. There is no
no.
death. Now we experience, the fact that we get old, and then we die and everything. We get weaker as we get older. Things, break down and everything. I mean, it's a horrible thing to watch somebody get older and then die. However, their mind is still has that young mind in them. Even though they're old, they feel old and decrepit. However, their mindset, their soul is not at that level. It's still young inside them. And when you go to heaven, you hear of stories of people who saw their loved ones who passed, and they looked like they were 25 and beautiful. They weren't old like they were when they died in that hospital bed. Like my grandfather was 94 when he passed away. It was horrible to watch him pass and watch somebody get old like that, and just lose everything as far as what we consider, human, like your mind, your speech. You can't even get up and go to the bathroom. You can't feed yourself. The only thing you could do is lay there, and it's a horrible thing to get old and die. But I don't think that during the millennial reign, I think it even could have been possibly they even lived longer. They may have even have been larger to a certain extent, because they even say our soul is so big and brilliant that they're surprised we can even fit our soul into these little bodies that we're wearing right now. Okay, maybe with during the millennial reign, things were bigger because we were bigger, because our spirit was bigger, and it was more in tune with God and Jesus, and we walked that walk. However, you still had free will while you were here. God didn't take that away during the millennial reign and say everybody has to be this, and then afterwards we'll give you your free will back. If you chose a different path, which is what I think started to happen towards the end of the millennial reign, when it started to wrap up, things were starting to get that way. People were starting to go off into these other things and start, maybe worshiping Lucifer on some level and didn't realize it. Even maybe they were being deceived and stuff as the millennial reign was wrapping up. Because when we move into the short season of Satan, it seems to already be some establishment of, all you hear about the Aztecs and the Mayans and all these other people in India and everything. They're all worshiping all these different gods, and they're all worshiping, some type of deity like a snake or something like that, or the Dogon, and all this stuff like that. You still have free will while you're here.
It's an interesting idea, because when you look at oh shoot, I was gonna say something about that. Yeah. So Cain and Abel, when Cain, he kills his brother, spoiler alert, and then they banish him, and he goes somewhere, and there are other children that eventually a line of Adam and Eve have multiple children after they have Seth. But Cain goes somewhere to find other people, and there's a whole big part of the Bible that's just kind of left out there that we have to try to piece it together and figure out how it happened. And it's the same thing with this. You get to the whatever we were talking about. What were we talking about? Hang on.
Well, I've listened to this whole book here of Adam and Eve, and I don't ever really hear them talk about these other people that were out there.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
I know that they put a mark on. I mean, God told the animals to come and say, "Look, don't bug Adam or his children," because they were worried that the animals were going to eat them up. But when you read the Bible says that Cain was like, "Don't send me off," I think, because they'll kill me. And
that's where he gets the mark, right?
So, but in this book, it's saying that they were afraid of the animals attacking them. You don't hear anything in this book of Adam and Eve about other people being out there.
Right.
Could that have been a manipulation by Lucifer to get us to be like, oh, well, see, it says, look, let us go down and confound their language. Or, oh, look, see, there was more people. It wasn't just Adam and Eve. So God's lying over here or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if Lucifer manipulated the Bible to be like, oh, let us go down. And,
well, it's the same.
There was only one God, right?
It's the same thing where we were at as far as the way it towards this part of the book. It's that we can all agree in the scriptures that revelation happens at some point, 1,000-year reign of Christ happens, and then they have to leave in order for what? Satan to be loosed to deceive the rest, the leftovers, the world. Where did they come from? Where were they? They just appear, and all that's left out there. We can theorize and stuff and try to piece it together, but it just literally, the story jumps, and God's reigning on earth. Jesus is here 1,000 years, and then they leave. It doesn't say how long it takes them to leave, but they leave, and then Satan's loose to deceive the world. Who's here? Where did they come from? Where were they hiding? Are they dead and resurrected? Were they there, like you said? Maybe a millennial reign happened, and they were the ones that started walking away again, and that's who we ended up with, the leftovers. I mean, there's so many different variants that it could be. We'll actually never know, but this is why I want to discuss these things. And I know it triggers people, but whatever. We need to get past that and have these discussions, because there's so much left out. And yet there's so much in it. If we keep talking about it, maybe we find the puzzle piece from some other, somebody found it in a scripture or something, or someone found another book behind their couch. I like that.
When you look at the World's Fair buildings, right? All those glorious buildings, they tell us they made them, they were temporary and stuff, and you know, all that. There's no bathrooms and stuff and none of the stuff. It's massive, the buildings, okay? So, you know, maybe during the millennial reign, being at a higher spiritual being, you may not have needed so much to keep this body going because your spirit is feeding this physicality. You know, you're connected to God on that level. You're living in abundance and love and glory and grace and mercy under God. That people did not need. Now, I've heard of other people like in this world currently, even that aren't of Jesus, and maybe they subscribe to like Hinduism or something, who meditate and go for weeks and months and even years without eating. Okay. I don't know how that happens, but it is a possibility that, you know, being at a higher level of spirituality, that we don't have to intake as much, we don't have to expel out as much or whatever, and our bodies were larger and more of a spiritual, energetic being than just this physicality, the way we experience now. We're small. It says the meek shall inherit the earth. You know, meek means small and weak and timid. You know, if you look at us and our bodies are small and weak and timid. You know, it doesn't take much for these bodies to incur injuries or even death. One good hit and your soul can pop right out of your body, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen where people
And-
got one punch and they drop dead. You know, you've heard of that. You know, people,
yeah,
you
One
know,
Punch Man. I
hit
kids
somebody
like.
and they died, and they don't know how they did it, but he hit them square in the head between the eyes, and now they're charged with manslaughter. You know, even though they didn't mean to kill that person. But you know, it's not. Our bodies are weak and frail, and are we the meek that inherited the earth? Maybe.
And I do want to say something there, and I've used this too because I used to love watching the show Supernatural. We call ourselves we're elevated by light being, whatever, in a meat suit, and okay, yeah, we can describe ourselves as that. And like I said, they did it all the time in Supernatural. But I started thinking about it. Don't forget too, God says you're made in His image, so we have to remember that. And yeah, but this meat suit was made by God specifically for this purpose, so we can live in this fallen world and maybe make it out. But it's more than a meat suit. I mean, again, I've used that many times, but
Yeah.
I'm trying not to now because it's more than that, you know.
Well, you
It's
know,
not a mistake that I'm here. I'm here for this whatever purpose He has, and I'll fulfill it in this amazing body.
oh, thank God you got your shirt. Okay, great. Okay. Takes forever to get the certain places. Anyway, I'm so grateful that we're all discussing this. We all have questions. We're all trying to figure out where the millennial reign fits in. Can we see any evidence of this millennial reign? I went looking for it, and the only conclusion that I could come up to is that these heavenly, amazingly glorious buildings that we see could not have been made by Lucifer. They seem heavenly to me, especially the World's Fair buildings and stuff. And
Yeah, I hear you.
I feel like even if it was just the World's Fairs and not all the other buildings, at least those possibly were definitely millennial reign. And this is why they were so quickly destroyed. And anything else that was around that had to do anything with the millennial reign was given a new date on it, and it was founded, and they give an architect who designed it and all this stuff. And then we have all these new narratives and we don't question anything. Clearly something happened. There's buildings that are covered up. There's, you know,
And
timeline all disheveled and everything. Something's being hidden from us.
if we could go in the Wayback Machine, we would see the show with you and Stephen and myself, and we are all basically discussing it. But I know it was my idea that the churches with the stained glass, I believe there was a light source in the center of the church that shined outwardly, and they play the organ music. And so, yeah, maybe they were healing stations and energy stations, but wouldn't it be to heaven? It would be a glory to God. You're shining this beautiful colors back at God and playing this amazing music. I mean, That just makes sense to me, but I could be completely wrong on that, because since then, obviously, Satan's taken over and changed everything and put them like and look everything gothic and throwing gargoyles on everything and changing numbers on buildings. So we'll never know truly because we weren't there and we can't go back, at least that I know of, without Mr. Peabody and he's a cartoon.
Well, I was listening to near-death experiences. A lot of people don't like that kind of stuff, whatever. But I mean, some people have gone and got a whole tour of heaven, even, and even the ones who were only able to stay for a short time and was able to see some stuff, said how glorious it is and how the buildings are and stuff. And the buildings that they're describing are the buildings that we see here. I mean, they might be covered in gold and all this stuff, and our buildings aren't, but they're just amazing, beautiful buildings that are there. And I can definitely see the glory in the buildings. Even the cathedrals that we see are absolutely amazing and blow my mind and stuff. I don't see how it was built or even designed in those dark ages time period, like they say. Because if you look up the cathedrals of the world and see when most of them were built, they were supposedly built during this dark age.
Yeah.
No writing, no arithmetic, no nothing, but somehow they were able to bust out these amazing cathedrals.
And everyone was a master craftsman back in the 1800s. Like even the prisoners, they knock out a building and everyone today, it's still standing. And we go, wow, how'd they do that with no roads and no machinery? They just had big horses and prisoners, but they had the will, I guess. It's like, and they did it in a year. Like we can't even get plans finished in a year in current times, and the buildings we make fall over.
And even if it didn't take a year, if they have the narrative attached to it that it took 100 years to build that building, then you got to think, well, how is it for over 100 years they passed down all these people exactly the way the plans are and how it's supposed to be built, and even within 100 years, how did they move these massive pieces of material that make up this particular building, like the massive
and why do they all have to be built the same? Because there's obviously something connected to those circular windows and those big spires or whatever. You know what I mean? They have the same stuff on all the buildings.
If we were living during the millennial reign, we wouldn't be using electricity the way we're using it. We wouldn't be paying for stuff, and there wouldn't be inflation and all this madness that we're living with and that we see and everything. It would be an abundance of everything for everybody. There'd be no classes. Everybody would be living in abundance, love, joy, happiness. You wouldn't be hearing about all these murders and wars and rumors of wars and all this craziness that's going on.
The lion would be laying with the lamb in that world. I can't wait.
Exactly. That's how it would be. Because Lucifer is put away at that time during the time of a millennial reign type of period. And Jesus can be here and walk with us, and he can be in heaven and doing what he's doing in heaven too. Whereas here in this short season of Satan, we're disconnected from that. We have to have faith and belief in the unseen, because we don't, during the millennial reign, you could see it. You could be a part of it. But we're past that. We're not in that. We're in the short season of Satan, and he's doing everything he can to hide that, to hide the fact that we could even be like that. And anybody who tries to live in that type of abundance on their own or within their own little group or society or whatever quickly gets shut down or made into a cult of some sort. You know what I mean? Because, they don't want you to live off the land and be abundant and have no cares of this physical world, in the sense that Lucifer wants you to be attached to it in that way. So he's got to make those people look like crazy and cultists, and we got to go in and burn their asses down or something. You know what I mean?
He doesn't like people that aren't afraid.
That's
and
right.
We're finding this faith, and the stronger it gets in us, the less we fear. And again, I'm not like, bring it on, please, no. But I don't fear when it comes, because I know he'll find a way out for me. If he's not right there already figuring it out before I even knew I was going to need it. Kind of like what he did for Abraham. He's got I think it was a ram, Jenny said. He's got it ready to go. Like he's got one in the chamber just in case Abraham needs it. And he does, and he's ready to go. He didn't go, oh, hang on a second, Abraham. Let me make a lamb real fast. No, it was ready to go since the beginning of time.
Right.
because he looked ahead and said, okay, we do a crossroads. They talk about it in songs all the time. We crossroads every single day of our life, and we make choices, and those choices send us on paths. And so that's what it was. He's got this all planned out, and then he gives us free will to do what we want, because if he didn't, that's slavery.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And let me see here. Set and egg. By the way, you should have definitely gotten your shirt by now, because I mailed that thing out like March 18th, I think. So it should have been there. I do have a tracking number for it, and I'm going to look into that. And if it doesn't wind up there, I'm going to get you a shirt and mail it out again free of charge, because I don't know why it's not there. It should have been there by now. I'm just putting that out to you. I'm really sorry. I'm pretty sure yours was going to Canada. But anyway, if just email me. My email is below this live stream. Send me an email. Let me know it's you, so I can keep track of you and get right back to you. Because you're setting egg here, but on the email you could be something else. And this is where I get confused with everybody's name. Like, Red Storm's Red Storm here, but looking for her email, I'm not going to look up Red Storm. Okay.
And no offense, but it seems like there's always a problem with Canada. Just saying.
I know.
I had a package I sent out to Chaput, and it traveled the country and came back, and I had to pay twice because I didn't write like 2 words on it. So
yeah,
damn Canadians.
And I've mailed stuff to Chaput, and it took like over 2 weeks to get there. As a matter of fact, we were getting worried, and I thought I was going to have to go get another one and mail it out. And he's like, "Oh, it arrived, and that's great." So, but I really feel like yours should have arrived by now. It's just hard for me to track once it gets into Canada. The tracking really only goes to like the United States, and then after that, it doesn't give me any information.
We'll figure it out. Shoot her another email.
Yeah, shoot me an email, let me know it's you, and we'll talk more, and I'll get your size again. And I'm pretty sure it was a medium that you wanted.
And I love what Friendella said. Because we were talking about how prisoners were amazing architects in the 1800s. And she writes, and now all they make are license plates. Like, we've really changed, haven't we?
Well, all I know is there's so many narratives out there, and we already know that so many of them are lies. We've busted so many of them open and picked it all apart, and you guys can see where the lies are. At the end of the day, they're hiding something with all these lies. You wouldn't lie if you didn't have something to hide, right? There'd be no reason to lie. There's an agenda. There's motive to lie. What is the motive? What are they hiding from us? And, why do they want us to think we're on a ball hurtling through space? There's no reason for that other than they're hiding God and God's creation. So if they're going to hide God and God's creation, they're going to hide God's son. They're going to hide God's millennial reign, and they're going to hide God's judgment for sure. Just saying. Hey, Friendella, welcome.
And yeah, what was it? Someone, they already solved it in the chat. We're all good. Okay. So where should we go from here? Should we play a little bit more?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Why not? Okay. And we did 40 minutes of this episode last time we did it, and we've done, I think, 3 since we started tonight. It's freaking great. Okay, here we go.
Then Adam and Eve stood under the altar and wept.
Oh,
Thus
can we pause it one more time?
God.
I'm going to add something else to the millennial reign in our bodies during that time.
Yeah, go for it.
I feel like that since we were more connected to the spirit realms of God and the heavenly realms, that they had more abilities than we do. I'm sure you've all heard of people who can read people's auras, or maybe even read people's minds and say something and answer them before the person ever even asks them the question, and they have some kind of extra mental abilities. I think during the millennial reign, this is all a possibility. I don't think there could have been war during the millennial reign the way we consider war today, is because if I hit you, I'm going to feel it. Okay, I'm not going to war with you and blow up your house or whatever if I can feel the hurt that I'm causing you. Now, where we're at in the short season of Satan, people don't feel it like that. I can lie to you because you can't read my mind. If you can read my mind, you can't lie to people. I can't hide a lie in my head and make you not see it. So I think during the millennial reign, they did have more of the abilities that we consider now to be very rare and only certain people are in tune with, like the that says, I could see dead people. You know what I mean? He could see into the spirit world. Babies come into that, into our realm, still having that connection until their skull forms and covers and closes up completely, and they get into like 4, 5, 6 years old, start getting the shots, which is the whole reason for the shots, is to calcify your pineal gland, which your pineal gland is the thing that connects you to that spirit realm. I think during the millennial reign, their pineal glands were wide open and they could walk and talk with God and Jesus during the millennial reign. They didn't have to believe and trust that they were real. They knew it because they could be in contact with them very easily. So yeah, I don't think there would have been wars and all this stuff, all this negativity that we experience today, because of the fact that they did have extra sensory perceptions available to them, given that they had a higher spiritual being already during this time.
But it could have come the other way because they were with Jesus. They didn't have any of those thoughts, so it didn't matter if everyone was connected. Whereas we live in this deceitful world now because they've left and we're the leftovers, and everyone's got it clouded together, and you have to take people at their word, and that's what we need to find out: is their word true? And that's part of the Great Awakening is.
Yeah. When people say they got their glorified bodies, I think when you get your glorified body, I think that, it never ages. It's never sick. It doesn't need this food that we feed it. You don't need teeth because you don't need to eat anything. But you know what I'm saying? You don't have to use a bathroom because, your spirit is feeding the physical part of your body. And you're achieving that level of higher spirituality that your body is already fed by that. Could I be wrong about all this? I sure could. I really could. I just feel like if I hit you and I can feel it, I'm not going to war with you. If I try to lie to you and you can read my mind, well, you can't lie to people. So if you take out the two big things that are destroying this world right now, which is war or fighting and lying, right? I'm not going to go and stab you to death if I can feel it and it's going to kill me too. You see what I'm saying? That's just how I feel about it. That's the way I see the millennial reign, and I hope that it would actually be that way. If we had a different spiritual connection, a higher spiritual connection, then I think we had better bodies during that time, and we had more abilities during that time. I think our creative abilities and our ability to co-create in the name of Jesus while we are here to build amazing, glorious structures for whatever those things actually were, because we're told they're for different things now. But clearly these buildings must have had another heavenly type of function here, whether it's gathering the earth energy grid system and providing free, clean energy to the people who were here. You don't need somebody to come and fix your electric pole outside because a tree fell over and now you don't have any power. They had free energy. They didn't have to work hard at anything. There was no classes. Everybody lived in abundance. There's no poor people. There's no like the upper crust 1% and the rest of us down here toiling. It wasn't like that during the millennial reign. Everybody was equal and it was abundant and there was everything for everybody, because that's how it is in heaven. It was almost like heaven on earth, but at the same time, you're still here on earth. And
I need to address two things. One was, oh shoot, where'd it go? Well, I'll come back to that one. But the question or the statement that it says, one of the major things that bugs this person about all the folks that say they can be condemned for being deceived. And the answer I have on that one is, there is that passage, and it's one of the ones that's been changed and Mandela affected. There's that passage that says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And so if someone's telling you you're condemned for this, no, you're not supposed to. That's not how it works. What they're supposed to say is, God says that, he says it better, but it's no bueno. And to research this yourself, because if you're being deceived, that's how you'll perish. Of course, it's now been Mandela affected, and it no longer says my people perish for lack of knowledge. It says they'll be destroyed, which, okay, you can argue is similar, but different.
It's definitely not the same. Perish
Yeah.
means you perish, period. Something's destroyed, it can be rebuilt. How many
Right.
times did they destroy something and rebuild it, right?
Rise
So
it up, God says, right.
destroyed means that there's a possibility that you come back. Okay, well, it's destroyed. I'm just going to build it back again. Build back better. Right? Isn't that what they were saying? Build back
Yeah.
better or something? Also here it says one thing that, but okay, we just addressed that. What was the other thing here I wanted to?
And I also like Trisha just got here. Welcome. And
Welcome,
she's worried.
Trisha.
She's worried she's missed too much. We've literally done, I think, 3 minutes of the book, so don't worry.
Yeah, we just been talking about all different, and it's fun bouncing these ideas
Oh,
around, guys.
sure.
I'm grateful that you have questions and you disagree and you agree, whatever. I'm grateful for all of it. None of us really know, right? We'll all find out when we leave this place, though, because none of us get out alive. So there's that.
And if there was something better to go, they would have tuned. So we're at 55.
I also
60
want to
people.
point out to everybody that
Don't forget to hit the like button, people. Okay, go ahead.
For my personal experience, where I'm at now, I do not fear death at all. Now, I definitely wouldn't want to die certain ways, and it would suck if I was like tortured to death. Yeah, I would definitely not like that. But death itself, I do not fear. And so many of us fear death because we're so confused and don't know what comes after this and don't know what to believe while we're here. So we fear it because we're of this world. And we think that this is it, we got to hold on to this world no matter what, but I definitely, where I'm at now, I do not fear death. As a matter of fact, I've told people recently in my life, family members, I said, when I die, please don't cry for me. I want you guys to celebrate my life and celebrate that I've gone home because I'm going home. I don't belong here. I'm not from here, but I chose to come here. I feel to be a participant in this crescendo we call the end of the short season of Satan, and I had a role to play. And I could never figure out why I could see all this stuff and other people couldn't. And when I tried to tell them this stuff, they didn't want to hear it. And it's so important. It's like so big. I can't believe people don't even want to talk about it. Why are people shutting me down? Even the people closest to me. But I realized that just like the apostles, I've been called out to see this. Yeah. I have a part to play before I ever even came back to God and Jesus. And even when I was giving out those DVs about zeitgeist and stuff, I didn't know it then, but I still had a part to play. I had to go through that. I had to learn my lesson. Now, if I would have stayed there and didn't, believe in God or Jesus or anything like that, I would probably fear death like everybody else does. But now I know that I'm going home. I know that this life, and it's a seamless transition from this body to our glorified self in heaven. Like you literally step out of one and step into the other.
What does Jesus say when he walks into a room or leaves it? Peace be with you. Mm-hmm. He literally says that. And that's what you're describing, at least for me.
Yeah.
When you find this, you get a peace with it. You don't want death. You just understand it now. Like, mm-hmm. When I check out, unless I've done something to force the issue, remember he tells Satan that he's not going to tempt God by jumping off the mountain to see if God will catch him, trust fall, He says it's the same thing. I won't tempt it, but I'll understand it eventually when it comes, because mm-hmm. it'll mean that I've fulfilled whatever it is God wanted me to do here. And then I believe I'm going home to wherever that is, along with, everyone else. And so it takes away probably the biggest fear they instill in us, mm-hmm. Is death. And what does it say? Jesus has conquered death. Mm-hmm. And it proves it by giving us that peace. Mm-hmm. So
I definitely don't fear death. And I pray for the people who do fear it, because, maybe they feel that, I'm not sure what they feel. All I know is that I've definitely found a profound peace in my life as far as that goes. I mean, if I found out tomorrow I had some horrible thing and I was going to go and I only had a couple months to live, I would just spend those months giving praise to Jesus and preaching his word as much as I could and righting any wrongs that I've done in my life and living righteously as much as I can and be grateful. Because at some point you got to go home. Whatever that looks like, you're going to be taken out of here. Okay. people say, well, why did this baby have to die so young? Or why did this child who was so young have to have this horrible disease and die or whatever like that? Well, I don't have those answers. People are meant to come here and only spend a little bit of time sometimes. And maybe whatever happens to the people around that child who are seeing the child suffer and there's no cure and has to go through all these operations only to wind up dying anyway. Yet this was such a beautiful child and such a kind little heart and everything. But maybe that child's experience and the people around it who went through that experience with that child, their faith was tested during that time. And, maybe they think, God neglected to help this child or something, and they don't understand why this child had to go so soon. But God has a plan, and we don't know what that plan is. And one thing you could be comforted in is that even though you're sad your child's gone and they died this whatever kind of death, you could be comforted in knowing that the child's back in heaven with God in the child's glorified body, and that in itself is amazing. You know what I mean?
And you can look at the stories in the Bible that are horrific. For instance, Moses gets born, and what do they want? They want to find him and kill him. And since they can't, they kill all of these babies, hoping they got Moses. God didn't do that.
I love Pants on the Ground. He's got, he's like, you remind me of, I'm not insulting you, don't take this the wrong way, but you remind me of like a young child who's like, but why? But why? You have to keep trying to answer them and figure it out, because he constantly has questions he's thrown out, because he's got that. I love this quality about you, Pants On. Don't take me wrong, but you do have that curious childlike vibe to you, and that I love about you, because it's so pure and honest where it comes from. He said, did the baby die that had the same kind? Did the baby that died have the same kind of soul that you have? Or did God put the baby there for a reason?
Okay. Two things on that. That's perfect. Because I was going to say, then there's all these children that die, even, for the name of God with the Moses. They do it again with Jesus, same thing. And so there's also, don't forget the discussion of whoever the 144,000 are. And they're supposedly, I don't know where they get the information, they're supposed to be virgins. So babies would be included in that. So were some of them, say, NPCs that God created for this, just like he did the ram? Maybe. I don't know. It's an interesting idea if that's where you're going with this.
Well, there's a lot of people who'd be like, could turn from God because God wasn't, they look at it, because we look at things in a very selfish way here. Why did God take this from me? Why did God take my child from me, or whatever like that? Why wasn't God there to save my child or bring a cure or something like that? So it'll test your faith. We have to trust in God that there's a plan and there's a reason for everything. I don't know why God decided to take my Lola, my cat, and take her home when he did. She was only 3 years old, and I still don't know what happened to her. But the one thing I know that God did do is made sure that I found her quickly, and I didn't have to look and wonder for days and days and days where she was at. And when I saw her where she was, the first thing I said, after yelling her name and knowing that she wasn't moving, as I was running up to her, I was thanking God. I was thanking God for allowing me to find her quickly and not put me through, oh my God, where is she? And I'm traipsing through the woods day and night just to try to find wherever it is that she is. She was not far away, and I found her rather quickly. And I know God made sure that I could find her quickly, at least. And I just
and maybe that was the blessing. Like something came at you and it got knocked away. Jesus did it with the demons into the pigs, and your cat took the hit. And so God's like, well, I won't make her suffer. And then what does he do? Send you another one to fill it in.
Yeah, we saw a sign 3 days after she died. 3 days. Isn't that interesting? 3 days after Lola died, we saw a sign. And the sign said free kittens. And now I have...
That was my favorite, when you say, God, send me a sign, and you literally see a sign.
Yes. And even my husband is the one who saw the sign. He's like, hey, I see a sign. And I'm like, what? What do you... And I was like staring out the window all sad. I've been through so much, and then this just happened. I could have been like, God, why are you putting this on my plate? Really? You're going to take Lola from me now? Are you kidding me? After everything else you put me through? But I wasn't like that. I'm just
No, we have
grateful.
to. We live in gratefulness and blessings, and they're all around, even in the sad times. Because what does he say? The wise man lives in the house of sorrow. The other one's in myrrh constantly. They don't see what's going on around them, and
Yeah.
and that's why we have to feel these sorrows, just like Jesus did. But he's also there to tell us, "Hey, I took the hit. I'll take care of you."
Mhm.
You just,
I
yeah.
think that the baby had a soul. I think any baby that's born here, once they're born into this world, they come into it with a soul. People like to try to argue when it becomes actually a baby and not a fetus, and what constitutes this or that, or when the soul actually enters the body coming into this world. What happens to the babies who were aborted? Did they have souls? Whatever, or that kind of stuff. Yeah, I just think we all come in here with souls, but what happens to us during the course of our journey, people do turn into becoming like NPCs, like little robots of Satan who don't think for themselves and go along with the get along gang and stab people in the back. If they hurt me, I'm going to hurt them, an eye for an eye. And they seem to be they don't want nothing to do with the truth or anything that's righteous and just. They just want to service to self. And then we call them NPCs to a certain extent. Now, do I think there's actual NPCs that are walking among us that are not human and do not have souls? Yeah, I do. I think that's definitely a possibility too. I think that in Satan's short season here, he likes to be like the Most High, so he wants to create a being that he can create, that he can say is his creation, but there's no soul in it. And we would call this an NPC, or some type of what is it called? Biological robotic entity of some sort that looks and walks and talks like us, but they're actually not human like us at all.
Have you seen that news that came out where that guy, he was complaining that he was seeing people's faces turned into demons?
Yes.
And now they have like a medical condition for it, it's,
Yeah.
demasitis or something. Like, it's okay, it's just he having a mental issue, or he's actually seeing them as they really are. They're starting to morph. I mean, some of those Hollywood people, like Celine Dion, turned into some kind of creature for like a few years, and now all of a sudden she looks like she's the way she was before. I think they just insert new people.
When you give yourself over to Lucifer and his way of life and living under that, it deteriorates you on another level that we can't even understand. It rots your soul away. And that's easy for something else to step in and take over and command your actions and what you do. And I think that we see a lot of this manifest through some of the technologies that we're using. I think that we see it manifest, and we don't know what to make of it. When I saw those demons dancing on stage at that concert, I almost fell off my chair because I'm like, wow, there they are. This one camera happened to pick it up. Maybe we were meant to see that. This guy was meant to capture it, meant to put it out, and meant for people to see, hey, look, they are among us. You worship them. You're buying their tickets and going to their shows.
Well,
And
I think it's that whole, because it goes multiple discussions in the Bible about your eyes being veiled, and I think there's like areas that we've been unveiling in our eyes so we can see certain things. Like when I figured out I was on, the stationary Earth, the Bible Earth, like the colors and stuff got brighter and things got more vivid, and like certain things like that. It seems once you get these things lifted, you can see and feel more things, and it's almost like the same thing with this, that when you are open to seeing these and you start seeing the deceivers in Hollywood specifically, they start looking different. And I also believe they've inserted, like, say someone starts out as a beautiful woman, and then a few years of their career they go off on some trip and come back and they don't look anything like they used to. But there's also some of them I think I'm just seeing differently. And when I go look back at some of these old shows and go, that seems a little sus. I don't remember her looking quite like that. You know what I mean? And it seems like our eyes are sharpened, more in tune to seeing it, like the glasses and They Live, right?
yeah, exactly. Even that show is showing us that, if you have the eyes to see it, which it took a filter or sunglasses to put on to actually see it. But you could see that they walk among us. They look like us, but when you have that clarity of vision into that realm of, you could see them masking themselves in this human form, or that people have allowed themselves to be taken over by them, and they're the ones who are controlling them, kind of like an avatar or something. But you can also see when people have come to God and how they glow and how they shine, and how their beauty of righteousness being in God's good graces shines through them. And the people who suck Satan's banana, you could see the negativity in them, and the ugliness in them. And even possibly the demonic people who have attached themselves to these people, and they're doing their bidding through them.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, yeah.
I think someone clocked us at 5 minutes so far of this book.
I know, right? I know. We're 2 hours and 39 minutes in, and we
right. Let's see if we can get another 5 minutes kicked out. You want to try?
All right, yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Forgive us our trespass and our sin, and look upon us with thine eye of mercy. For when we were in the garden, our praises and our hymns went up before thee without ceasing.
They're making an idol. That's where we left off. They're burning their first sacrifice with their blood that they spilled of themselves. Okay.
But when we came into this strange land, pure praise was no longer ours, nor righteous prayer, nor understanding hearts, nor sweet thoughts, nor just counsels, nor long discernment, nor upright feelings. Neither is our bright nature left us, but our body is changed from the similitude in which it was at first when we were created. Yet now look upon our blood, which is offered upon these stones, and accept it at our hands, like the praise we used to sing unto thee at first, when in the garden. And Adam began to make more requests unto God. Chapter 24. Then the merciful God, good and lover of men, looked upon Adam and Eve and upon their blood, which they had held up as an offering unto him, without an order from him for so doing. But he wondered at them, and accepted their offerings. And God sent from his presence a bright fire that consumed their offering. He smelt the sweet savor of their offering and showed them mercy.
So there he says, he didn't ask for it. Adam did this on his own. And God was like, okay, all right, I'll send you some mercy and blow this up and show you that I'm here. I can do that. It's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
Then came the word of God to Adam and said unto him,
Sounds like Jesus. But...
O Adam, as thou hast shed thy blood, so will I shed my own blood when I become flesh of thy seed.
So it's Jesus.
And as thou didst die, O Adam, so also will I die. And as thou didst build an altar, so also will I make for thee an altar on the earth. And as thou didst offer thy blood upon it, so also will I offer my blood upon an altar on the earth.
And that's a key there, because the people that are still living in a specific country that we can't mention, but there's a big war going on, and it's not Russia and Ukraine, it's somewhere else. Those people still want to do these sacrifices on altars. They're supposedly wanted to do one, a red heifer and all that nonsense. And they're doing sacrifices when after Jesus, that's supposed to stop. They're doing it wrong because they don't believe in him. But here, this is what it's discussing. He is the final sacrifice for us.
Mm-hmm.
And as thou didst sue for forgiveness through that blood, so also will I make my blood forgiveness of sins, and blot out transgressions in it. And now, behold, I have accepted thy offering, O Adam. But the days of the covenant wherein I have bound thee are not fulfilled. When they are fulfilled, then will I bring thee back into the garden. Now therefore, strengthen thy heart, and when sorrow comes upon thee, make me an offering, and I will be favorable to thee. Chapter 25. But God knew that Adam had in his thoughts that he should often kill himself and make an offering to him of his blood. Therefore did he say unto him, O Adam, do not again kill thyself as thou didst by throwing thyself down from that mountain. But Adam said unto God, It was in my mind to put an end to myself at once, for having transgressed thy commandments, and for my having come out of the beautiful garden, and for the bright light of which thou hast deprived me, and for the praises which poured forth from my mouth without ceasing, and for the light that covered me. Yet of thy goodness, O God, do not away with me altogether, but be favorable to me every time I die, and bring me to life. And thereby it will be made known that thou art a merciful God, who willest not that one should perish, who lovest not that one should fall, and who does not condemn anyone cruelly, badly, and by whole destruction. Then Adam remained silent. And the word of God came unto him, and blessed him, and comforted him, and covenanted with him, that he should save him at the end of the days determined upon him. This then was the first offering Adam made unto God, and so it became his custom to do. Chapter 26. Then Adam took Eve.
Because isn't that nice that they actually explain why we started doing these?
Mm-hmm.
No one ever told me before.
But the sacrifice it wasn't an animal. It wasn't a blood sacrifice.
It was their own blood. Yeah.
Their first sacrifice, wasn't he just burning some stuff like some?
No, that's what remember they killed themselves. God brought them back and chastised them and said, stop doing that. And then they scraped up leaves, but they also picked up like the blood that was on the leaves and on the gravel or whatever, and placed that on the altar and burned that.
Right.
And that's why he just said, yeah, but don't keep doing that. Don't keep killing yourself to burn stop it.
Right. And he never said you have to kill anything else as a sacrifice all the time. No. I mean, when the devil challenged him and said, look, if you ask him to sacrifice his son, he won't do it or whatever. And that's when God told, what was it, Abraham or somebody to sacrifice their son? I forget the guy's name. I know.
Abraham and Isaac.
And he said, he'll turn from you. He won't do it, but he was going to do it. And because he trusted in God, and he also probably knew that his son would be taken care of in the afterlife in heaven with God. So if the only thing that he would do really is miss him. It would be selfish for you not to do it because you're doing it for yourself. Like, of course, I would love to have my Lola back. But if God had asked me to sacrifice Lola to prove that I was, loyal to him in some way or whatever, I would do it in a heartbeat because I know Lola would go right back to heaven with him and be in a good hands until I met up with her again in heaven. It's not like I would never see her again and she would just be nothing ever.
But also, don't forget, in the Bible, he asked Abraham to do it, but doesn't have to do it. Right. The only person that sacrificed their son was God himself. He didn't make anyone else do that for him.
That's right.
He didn't even ask Adam and Eve to do these sacrifice, burnings. They came up on this on their own.
If we knew that when everybody died, they were going back to heaven, this amazing place where we all came from and we're going back to, we wouldn't be so upset. I think we'd be more upset that we haven't gone yet. And right now, we would be upset that I missed them so much. Why did they have to go? They had such a short life, or even if they had a long life, right? But if we understood what's going on and where we go from here, then we wouldn't be so sad when they left. We might be sad that we're still here and they're not, but it's more like now it's like we're sad that they're not here and we miss them so much. You see what I'm saying? Instead of missing them so much, we should be grateful that they've gone back to heaven, which is our true home where we belong. And they're experiencing this everlasting life that's amazing. And we'll be there too one day to meet up with them. That's why they say when you get there, you know, your deceased family and friends and even your pets are waiting for you there. You know, and they're
But
excited.
we're not supposed to like love that more than this. We're supposed to live in this world now until God takes us home.
Exactly. So when God does take us home, whoever that is in our lives, or if it's us, I want you to be happy that I've left. Don't be sad that I'm gone. You know, be happy that I've gone home, and that we've had an amazing experience to even get to know each other and have time together. But we're all going to go home at some point. You know what I mean? And that's the part that they have us, you know, not understanding why we fear death and we don't understand it. And why do these crazy things happen?
And that whole thing about celebrating, that was a big thing several years back. Like you make a list of what you want at your funeral and stuff in case you kick off. And there was like your favorite songs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, you know, the odds are that the man dies for the woman. So I was going to make my wife play at my funeral. She hates the Doors. And this song by the Doors called The End. It just goes on forever. And it's not even a really good song. So I'm going to force that played at my funeral. And now you've gave me a new one. You said, "Don't Cry for Me." I want to play "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina." You know, but have Madonna sing it, right? Have Madonna sing it.
Right.
So now I have two songs for that.
My son's father, when he passed away, everybody always knew. He said, when I die, play at my funeral, Pink Floyd, Two Lost Souls, Swimming in a Fishbowl.
Yeah.
And Guns N' Roses, Knocking on Heaven's Door. So those two songs were playing at his funeral when we got there.
Cool.
And, oh man, that's giving me chills thinking about it right now, because you keep mentioning that song to me about swimming in the fishbowl, going over the same old ground.
Well, that's what happens on a lot of these, say, you know, alternative thinking channels. Let's call it that. Because, you know, you're going to keep talking about, even if the subject is important, and yeah, maybe you're getting new people into the fold, and that's great. But for the rest of us, you're covering the same old ground year after year, visiting the same old fears, and wish you were here. But no, I'm moving on, and with you, I'm going to try to figure out this whole God's judgment stuff. Because what else do we have to do at the end of the day? I mean, we know that we're never going to know the time and day, but we can tell the season, and we can alert people and ring the bell and you know, be the watchman, and that's what we do. But I'm not going to be stuck in the same old. What's that? I'm sorry.
I said we definitely know the season. It's a short season of Satan.
Yeah.
And
I will sing it, Melanie. If you keep that up, I'll start singing. I'll sing Elon. Yeah. Oh yeah, they want it now. See. Okay, let's move on.
All right.
Elon
turned to the cave of treasures where they dwelt. But when they neared it and saw it from afar, heavy sorrow fell upon Adam and Eve when they looked at it. Then Adam said to Eve, "When we were on the mountain, we were comforted by the word of God that conversed with us, and the light that came from the east shone over us. But now the word of God is hidden from us, and the light that shone over us is so changed as to disappear. And let darkness and sorrow come upon us. And we are forced to enter this cave, which is like a prison, wherein darkness covers us, so that we're parted from each other, and thou canst not see me, neither can I see thee."
How sad is this?
When Adam had said these words, they wept and spread their hands before God, for they were full of sorrow. And they entreated God to bring the sun to them, to shine on them, so that darkness return not upon them, and they come not again under this covering of rock. And they wish to die rather than see the darkness. Then God looked upon Adam and Eve and upon their great sorrow, and upon all they'd done with a fervent heart, on account of all the trouble they were in, instead of their former well-being, and on account of all the misery that came upon them in a strange land. Therefore God was not wroth with them, nor impatient with them. but he was long suffering and forbearing towards them, as towards the children he had created. Then came the word of God to Adam, and said unto him, Adam, as for the sun, if I were to take it and bring it to thee, days, hours, years, and months would all come to naught, and the covenant I have made with thee would never be fulfilled. But thou shouldst then be turned and left in a long plague, and no salvation would be left to thee forever. Yea, rather bear long, and calm thy soul while thou abidest night and day, until the fulfillment of the days, and the time of my covenant is come. Then shall I come and save thee, O Adam, for I do not wish that thou be afflicted. And when I look at all the good things in which thou didst live, and why thou camest out of them, then would I willingly show thee mercy. But I cannot alter the covenant that has gone out of my mouth, else would I have brought thee back into the garden.
And that's really important too. God doesn't lie. He can't. It all falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
So he promised them, okay, you screwed up. I'll bring you back in 5,500 years. Now just cool your jets and I'll take care of you.
Right.
But yeah.
When, however, the covenant is fulfilled, then shall I show thee and thy seed mercy, and bring thee into a land of gladness, where there is neither sorrow nor suffering, but abiding joy and gladness and light that never fails, and praises that never cease, and a beautiful garden that shall never pass away.
And I have an idea. As I'm listening and reading the chat, they're having a discussion on animals.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we all want to believe that we're going to see all of our beautiful animals. How about this hypothesis? They say angels walk among us. What if the angels are in these animals? I know some of them are nasty, so maybe they're the bad ones. But
Right.
maybe they're loaded with angels. And so when we get to the other side, we'll just see these angels that are like, yeah, I was your dog for like 3 years. You remember me?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be something? That could be. Why not?
I've been watching stuff on animals lately, like how this one cougar, or I think it was a cougar or something, some type of like mountain lion thing, came down, ran down this road and ran up to people, and didn't just run up to the people that were on this road, because these people were on this road for some reason. He ran up to an authority figure and kept jumping at him. And the authority figure guy, whoever he was, park, whatever, decided he knew that this animal wasn't trying to attack him. Of course, everybody else was kind of afraid of it. So he decided to follow the animal. And he said he followed this animal 10 minutes down the road, and it took him to a river where
Jimmy was in the well.
where the cub was stuck in the river and didn't have much time. So this animal knew to come running down the road, find a human, not just any human, but one with authority over, say, the parks or whatever, and convince him somehow to, because he had the inclination. He followed this mountain lion, and it was asking for help. And then it was, I've seen other people who helped animals who came and asked them for help, literally, and then turn around and thank them, or even send the little puppy or baby of theirs over to the person to say thank you to them. I mean, I've actually seen this. These are the things they don't show you on the news. These are God's creatures, God's creation. And I have heard in near-death experiences that people say they do see their pets there.
But I'm saying you'll see them after in the afterlife. They're going to be like an angel, whatever that looks like, and it won't necessarily look like your dog, because maybe that same angel was my cat and his whatever. It's interesting, just an idea. Plus, my dog howled right when we discussed it, so I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say I think all of our pets, at least the nice ones, are good angels in our lives. So mark me down on April 9th, 2024, so they say.
The way the person explained it was, if you've had a pet in your life that you've had a relationship with, and you've loved that pet, and that pet in turn loved you and comforted you in your life as well, that you do see them in the afterlife. And that, all the other animals, God's creatures, are there as well. Like when a tree dies here, that same tree that's here is in heaven as well, but it never dies there. It just always constant. There's no death in heaven. If God created it and it's here, it's going to be there as well, especially if it was a huge part of your life. And animals know when we're sick. They know when we're in danger. They have that extra sense in them of protection and stuff like that. And then, of course, there's the people who have animals and abuse them and treat them like crap, just like they do. And we always say that's so inhumane. How could they do that to an animal, or even a human being, whatever. But yeah, I do feel like our pets who have come into our lives for whatever reasons, and all of my animals have come into my life by chance. I've never actually gone out and said, I want this particular dog and I'm going to get it. No,
same with us. They find us.
Yeah, like my cat Bella. I was out walking my dogs one night. He came out of a drain and literally just took to my dogs immediately. A cat, okay, a black cat, by the way. And my dogs took to this cat like immediately, and I'm like, okay. And the cat followed me home and never left.
Well, they're definitely smarter than us, and I can say that confidently because my dog or any dog can understand my language. Let's say I speak English, but if you're French, like Chapeau, or if you're German, whatever you speak, the dog will learn that language. Meanwhile, they have a language of their own. We don't know what they're saying. We can tell their emotions by the way they look at us or wag their tail, but we don't understand the different barks and stuff, what they're saying. And they talk to birds and other dogs and stuff. They also, like you said, they can sniff cancer. They can tell you're feeling down. I mean,
I've got to have an epileptic seizure. They can even sense that.
So they're way more in tune to this other realm that we are. So why couldn't they be angels? God uses animals all the time. There's that story of the donkey that sees the angel and smashes a guy's leg into the wall so he doesn't get killed. So, yeah, it's an interesting, I like this way of thinking. Has nothing to do with Adam and Eve right now, but I like it.
I've heard near-death experiences too, where they've seen their pets on the other side. As a matter of fact, this one guy said that he was walking through this amazing garden kind of field with rolling hills, and all of a sudden over the hill came all these animals running together. All types of animals that we would not see here frolicking together. Okay. Dogs, cats, whatever, all different kinds. And he said his pets were there and they ran up to him because they've seen him and recognized them. And they were so happy and everything. And then they just kind of went on their way and did their thing, because they're up there living their best life too.
Yeah.
But while we're here, they're here to comfort us, help us to get over grief. I know that Bella came to me for a reason. I know that Pepper God sent Pepper to me. Okay. Somehow this cat got out of wherever she was. She was already 6 months old. She was clearly never outside because she didn't act like a cat that was born outside. And she was really skitzed out because somehow got out of wherever she lived and didn't know how to take care of herself. And she made her way to my house, and because God probably knew, head over there. She's going to take care of you. You're going to be okay. And she came over, and we've had her ever since. And then
it's written, we entertain angels. Who's to say they can't be in an animal form? That doesn't specifically say that.
Absolutely. Every one of my animals have brought so much joy to my life. And the fact that I have Lilu now, and she was a sign from God 3 days after Lola died. And the fact that as soon as I brought this kitten into my house when she was 6.5 weeks old and I put her down on the floor in the living room, the first thing she did was climb straight up the cat tree to the top tier where Lola used to sleep and laid down there. It was like her saying to me, like, I'm your new Lola, or I'm here, to comfort you where Lola's not here anymore.
Like Jesus walked into a room and says, peace be with you, and sat down on Lola's thing. It's pretty wild. I
just believe that she climbed straight up the cat tree and went right to where Lola used to sleep all the time. I mean, what kitten 6 weeks old does that as soon as she comes into a house? It's just like, it was like God telling me, I definitely got that message.
Yeah. Hey, Jen, I know we're 5 minutes into the book and like 3 hours in the stream, but we're talking about animals. I got to put my chickens away.
Okay. Well, we're at 3 hours. We're going to have to continue this discussion. And I got to say, even though we're not getting so into the book and we're talking more on this stream, I've really, really enjoyed
I had a
myself.
fascinating, fun time. I hope everyone else did.
I hope everyone else did too, and they can take something away from this. I don't claim to have all the answers, and I don't proclaim to have, all the solutions to everything. But, I'm just coming from my perspective. And if you jive with it and if you resonate with it, that's great. If you have questions, that's good too. If something doesn't add up for you and it seems to be contradictory to something else, then we can discuss that as well. It's always open to discussion. Your mind is like a parachute. They both work better when they're open. And that's the way I like to keep it over here. I don't think any question's a dumb question. Don't ever be afraid to ask me something, even if you think I covered it already. And I just want to say, I love all you guys in Jesus' name, and let Jesus please deliver us from this evil that we have to be in here. And just keep us in your righteousness and show mercy on us. And please give us the grace to deal with these situations in a better way than we have been dealing with them. And I love you guys. I love you guys so much. And I don't wish any ill will on anybody. And if you disagree with anything that I have to say, I'm okay with it. Disagree, no problem. Shove a knife in my back, that's a problem. And I'm not going to look back. I'm going to walk away and keep going. I forgive you in advance if that's what comes to that. But you will never find me shoving a knife in anyone's back. Certainly not anyone who's already shoved a knife in my back.
Wow, that's very passionate and very confusing prayer, but I will say amen, I guess. The whole knife thing got it. You said all that with a knife in your leg. Okay.
I know. Well, it's just because of my experience lately, but I want to tell everybody out there, if you experience what I've experienced in any kind of way, learn from that lesson. Learn how to forgive, but don't ever forget what that person did, and shield yourself with the armor of God so you don't have to experience it again. Knowledge comes wisdom, and the way you gain knowledge is through this experience, and you learn things from it. Now, if I learned all this stuff and then I don't apply it or use it or look back on it to refer to, what good is that knowledge? It's definitely not wisdom, because when you have wisdom, you know when to use that knowledge and how it works and how it moves you forward with integrity through all this stuff.
Yes.
I think.
No, I like this. All
right. Well, I love you guys so much. Thank you, CFM, for joining me. And
Thanks
of course, we're going to discuss this more further. Maybe next time on your channel, we'll bounce back and forth, or we can do it again here. Either way. Yeah. I appreciate you guys for being so curious with all your questions, and also being respectful during the chat as well. It's always nice to be respectful, even if you disagree. And that's all I would ever expect from anybody, because that's what I do. Okay.
Well, thank you, Jen, for having me. Thank you, Chad, for listening. God bless you all. And I'll be most likely be there Friday again. We'll figure it out what we're going to do.
All right. It sounds good. And I'm going to take us out with God's Eyes from Dax, because everybody really likes that song, and it's powerful. So,
yeah, send me that link too, would you?
I will definitely send it to you. Guys, let it not be said that we stood by and did nothing, because that's all that evil needs to prevail, is for good men and women to stand by and do nothing. I love you guys, and we are out of here.
God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with man on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn and turn to rebels. He tried to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the burbs to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose. Rebellious in all ways, been sinners since birth. He knew that it would happen when he put us on this earth. We demonize religion, brought corruption to the church. We know know the price of everything, but we don't know the worth. We spend all of our time idolizing false prophets. Comparison's the enemy, stop watching others' pockets. The social system's broken, we divide on every topic. They fabricate the truth and we all monetize the gossip. We know the problems and we see them but don't want to change. We're desensitized to every issue cause they let us profit off of people's pain. In this dystopian age, we ought to game that he plays, and all the evil, deceitful people should shake our faith. I never seen God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with man on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn and turn to rebels. He tried to get my soul, but I'll never settle. I walk this lonely road from the burbs to ghettos. I'll take the gift bestowed and return a vessel. I am the one they chose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Our God is an awesome artist. In perilous times we seek his grace as the world and the times we face turn fake in the face of the devil's mirages. In the midst of the pain, just staying in the media's push of all this garbage, I pray that you keep your faith as the whole world breaks and the real get disregarded. It's about time that we take it back. The waste too great for the camel's back. Strong men made life an easy task, and now the weak men feminize every act. In the church, in the workplace, every class, on the television screen, in the state of rap. All virtues gone and it's fade to black. We in hell on earth and it's gon' collapse. Integrity's lost, hedonism, we incentivize gods on the way the revolution will be televised. Gone too far, don't know if we can rectify. At those gates we will testify. So I'm saying it now so they counteract clockwise. We are living in times where the wickedest all rise, the intelligent fall while the stupidest all thrive, and the real get pushed aside. I never seen God's eyes, but I seen the devil's. He walks with man on earth at different levels. He knows the king we serve, so he hates and meddles and prays that we all burn